Chapter 7081. I didn't expect you to be a doctor. In our place, there's always been only one doctor, and their status is very high. The attendant said with a smile. His attitude towards Bailey Hongzhuang had changed a little. Recalling the way she casually took out a pill, he roughly guessed that this lady was not only a doctor, but also an alchemist. There had always been some connection between the two. For cultivators, it was rare for them to fall sick, but almost every cultivator could not do without pills. Little brother, your doctor has checked Lu Qiyu's house and hasn't found any problems? The attendant nodded. Yes, the standard of the doctor in our town is also very good. Usually, if there's a small problem, everyone will go to him for treatment, and there is nothing that can't be cured. However, Lu Qiyu's family really can't find any problems, so everyone thinks it is a curse. Actually, I have always been very interested in some difficult and miscellaneous diseases. I wonder if I can help to check? Bailey Hongzhuang asked tentatively. Sir, I advise you not to take it. The attendant advised that Lu Jin is not someone easy to deal with, and in these few years, his personality has become very strange, and he almost doesn't have much contact with everyone. If you visit him at this time, I'm afraid he won't accept your kindness at all. Lu Jin can't, but Lu Qiyu can. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Doesn't he already have symptoms of coughing? I'm really curious. Hearing this, the attendant paused. Compared to Lu Jin, Lu Qiyu is indeed easier to talk to, but they may not believe outsiders. We will have to rely on little brother's help. Don't worry, we will definitely not treat you unfairly. Why do the two of you want to do such a laborious and unrewarding thing? The attendant looked at the two of them suspiciously. Not to mention that this matter did not have any benefits for them. They even had to give up some things. Wasn't this too not worth it? As long as it was a normal person, they would not do such a loss-making transaction. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Don't think too much. In fact, I have been immersed in medical skills for many years and have always wanted to have more breakthroughs in this field. Normally, I wouldn't miss out on any difficult and complicated cases. Fortunately, I managed to solve many of them. We didn't gain anything from this trip, but we're very interested in the power of the curse you spoke of. Thus, we want to give it a try and see if I can break it with my medical skills. My wife is very obsessed with medical skills. She is also known as a divine doctor in our original city. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to see through the medicinal pills you need at a glance. The attendant looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in surprise. No wonder this lady took out the bone-refining pill. She had already seen through his situation. Miss, if my help is successful, I wonder if the pill— The attendant's face was full of smiles. He was afraid that it would be impossible to rely on his own shopkeeper for the time being. He had been thinking about the medicinal pills all day long. Sure, if you succeed, I'll give you this pill as a thank you gift. Don't worry, I'm familiar with Lu Qiyu. Leave this matter to me. Just wait for my good news. Chapter 7082. If we can find the root of the problem, we should be able to gain some trust. However, if we can't find the root of the problem, I'm afraid that Lu Jin will rush over directly. Bailey Hongzhuang was a little helpless. Looking at Lu Jin today, she knew that this person was very difficult to deal with. Actually, there is one advantage to having such a character. Once he accepts, he should not hold back too much. Di Beichin said, Are you sure? Bailey Hongzhuang was a little doubtful. I see that he is very repulsed by outsiders. Even if we help him, I'm afraid that he will still be cold and unwilling to accept it. It will still take some time. However, as long as we succeed, he will not show such an expression again. Di Beichin smiled faintly. In the past few years, almost everyone has kept their distance from his family. He can feel all of this himself. The affection of providing charcoal in snowy weather often has a greater impact. Vaguely, he always had a premonition that this Lu Jin was very likely to be the breakthrough. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang were about to go out when they saw that the attendant had called Lu Qiyu over. Dear guests, my task has been completed. The attendant was full of smiles as he pushed Lu Qiyu forward with both hands. Lu Qiyu looked at the two people in front of him with a hint of hesitation in his eyes. Hey, are you sure this is reliable? Brother, Don't worry so much. Just treat it as doing me a favor, the attendant said. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the attendant's efficiency, and a faint smile appeared in her eyes. She had to admit that this speed was very satisfactory. She was now a little curious about Lu Qiyu's situation. She also wanted to know who was causing trouble and why everyone thought that it was a curse. You want to treat my illness? Lu Qiyu looked at the two lazily. His expression was full of disbelief. It was only because of their relationship that he appeared here today. Young Master Lu, please come in. Bailey Hongzhuang was very polite. This humble one has heard about young Master Lu's troubles. I happen to be a doctor, so I wanted to take a look. I hope I didn't disturb you. Lu Qiyu originally didn't have a good impression of these two people. Many people had already regarded them as people who were doomed to die, and even thought that they were the gods of plague. Regarding this point, he was already extremely unhappy in his heart. Now that two outsiders mentioned this matter, in his opinion, they simply wanted to see him make a fool of himself. However, looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's sincere look, he felt a little better. You see, our family's illness has been treated by several doctors, but they couldn't find a way to cure it. I think you should just stop wasting time. Lu Qiyu sat down on the stool. The woman in front of him looked very young. Although it was impossible to judge a cultivator's age based on their appearance, he was certain that this person was definitely younger than him. At such a young age, his medical skills would not be that good. It would be a waste of time. Bailey Hongzhuang also understood Lu Qiyu's heart, so she didn't say anything else. I wonder if young master can tell me the situation of your family's illness? Lu Qiyu's expression revealed a taboo and said impatiently, Aren't you a doctor? You can diagnose it yourself. If you can't diagnose it, then don't waste my time. Chapter 7083. Lu Qiyu saw that the lady in front of him had been silent all this while, and was rather puzzled. His attitude was already so bad, but the other party wasn't angry at all. There was indeed something different about her. However, Bailey Hongzhuang had just taken his pulse when a figure rushed into the room. What are you doing? A hand pulled Lu Qiyu behind him. Then, everyone saw Lu Jin, whose face was filled with anger. Father? Why are you here? Lu Qiyu looked at Lu Jin in astonishment, obviously not expecting him to appear at this time. I should be the one asking you. What are you doing here? Lu Jin's face was ashen and the atmosphere was extremely tense. Lu Qiyu was obviously very wary of Lu Jin and immediately revealed everything. This lady is a doctor, so she wants to take my pulse. Nonsense! Lu Jin shouted coldly, and then looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and Deep Beichan with an unfriendly expression. These two people are of unknown origin and have nothing to do with us. Why would you want to take your pulse for no reason? Speak, what are the two of you trying to do? Faced with the aggressive Lu Jin, Deep Beichan had already blocked in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. Senior, we just heard that Master Lu has contracted an illness and wanted to take his pulse to find a cure. Don't spout nonsense in front of me. These words might be able to fool my son, but it's far from enough to fool me. This is really our intention, Bailey Hongzhuang emphasized. Lu Jin snorted coldly. Don't think that I don't know what you're planning. Let me tell you, it's hopeless. With that, he directly pulled Lu Qiyu out of the room. Let's go. Father. Lu Qiyu was pulled away without any explanation and didn't even have time to say anything from the beginning to the end in a moment. The three people in the room looked at the two people who had disappeared, and the atmosphere became rather awkward. I also didn't expect Lu Jin to suddenly appear. The attendant's expression was complicated. This was originally going to be quite smooth, but he didn't expect it to develop into this in the end. Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand. Lu Jin's attitude was within their expectations, but it was much faster than they had expected. It's fine. You've done your best. Di Beichun took out a pill and handed it to the waiter. This is your reward. Looking at the pill in his hand, the attendant's expression became very complicated. Actually, I didn't handle today's matter well. You've already brought him here. Take it. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Who would have thought that you would be able to find him so quickly? That's already amazing. The attendant hesitated for a moment before accepting the pills. Don't worry, I'll definitely think of another way. No need, Di Beichun said. What happened today has angered Lu Jin. Yu won't be coming over anytime soon. Don't go looking for him, lest you get implicated. This? All right. The attendant nodded and didn't continue to emphasize this point. He also understood that Di Baichen's words made sense. With Lu Jin's character, he would definitely be looking for trouble if he went over at this time. He might even be scolded and come back. That kind of situation, he didn't want to experience it. However, the guilt in his heart couldn't dissipate. He felt guilty for taking the pill. He could only try to help these two in other ways. Chapter 7084. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head slightly. Lu Jin appeared too quickly. I couldn't tell. If it was a normal illness, she might be able to tell in such a short time. However, this was a symptom that was difficult to tell. There was no way to tell. They finally found such an opportunity. It was such a pity that they missed it. Noticing the pity in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, Di Baichen said gently, "There will be another chance." That's true. However, we can't find a breakthrough on either side. Moreover, after this incident, I'm afraid that everyone will be more wary of us. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed faintly. Although what happened just now happened inside the house, such a big movement had already attracted many people's attention. In this small town, where almost everyone knew each other, the news would spread quickly. It would be much more difficult to find another opportunity like this. Di Baichen was silent. Hongzhuang was telling the truth. That Lu Jin really doesn't know how to appreciate others' kindness. Look at him. Most people wouldn't even bother with him. Xiao He was indignant. She was already very unhappy with Lu Qiyu's attitude. Lu Jin's attitude was even more exaggerated. They were indeed father and son. Ordinary people couldn't stand their tempers at all. It's our fault that we can't find another breakthrough. If we can find an apothecary, then we don't have to waste time on them. Xiaobai shook its head. It understood its master's helplessness. They finally came to the border of the crossing immortal domain. However, they couldn't enter it. It was really worrying. If it really doesn't work, why don't we try to bribe someone? Xiaobai suggested. It was too difficult to gain someone's trust. Between the two methods of coercion and bribery, the second method was more feasible. That's one way. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. However, the target of this temptation, I'm afraid we have to cast a wide net. Upon hearing this, Di Baichen and the two beasts looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. When the waiter heard that Bailey Hongzhuang was going to open a shop here, he was dumbfounded. Sir, did I hear wrongly? Are you planning to open a shop here? What kind of joke was this? These were two outsiders. They had never accepted outsiders. They had only stayed here for a short period of time, but they had already been rejected by many people. Now, they even wanted to open a shop here. Wasn't this nonsense? We don't have much to do now anyway, so we've always just gone wherever we go. The scenery here is pretty good, and the living environment is very suitable. It just so happens that you don't have any alchemists here, right? I think that if we open a pill store, the business should be pretty good. The attendant, who was about to object immediately, hesitated after hearing the last part. We really don't have any alchemists here. Usually, if you want to buy pills, you have to go to a place far away, isn't that it? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. But you're outsiders. Don't tell me that you haven't had any outsiders in all these years. Bailey Hongzhuang asked. The attendant thought for a moment and said, "It's not that we haven't had any outsiders in all these years, but it has been more than 10 years. It's not easy to be accepted by everyone." Chapter 7085. Hearing this, the attendant was slightly startled, but after he reacted, he couldn't help but laugh. He didn't know when he started to be considerate of these two customers. Perhaps it was because the two of them happened to give him the pills he needed, or perhaps it was because the two of them didn't have any bad intentions. After staying here for so many years, he had come into contact with some scheming people, but the feeling he had was completely different from the two of them. So, we just need to spend a little more time. Seeing the two of them in high spirits, the attendant didn't say anything else. If the two of you are really determined, I can help the two of you find a suitable shop. Then I'll have to trouble you. Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. Although they had made this decision, they still needed help to find a suitable place. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to find it by themselves. It's a piece of cake. Leave it to me. The attendant patted his chest, indicating that there was no problem at all. The two of them were originally full of confidence. Now that they had the attendant's help, it should be easier to proceed. Although many people didn't accept them at all, for something that everyone could use, there would definitely be people who would buy it. In this way, this was already a breakthrough. The reality was just as the two of them expected. After everyone knew about Lu Qiyu, the rejection of Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang became even stronger. Shopkeeper, these two guys are of unknown origin, and they are so interested in the Lu family's curse. I think these two are probably good at evil. It's best to not let them stay here. Our place has never welcomed outsiders, and these two are so strange. Why don't we work together and chase them out? You have to make a decision. Anyway, as long as you don't let them stay here, we won't let them stay. The shopkeeper's expression was very hesitant. I've already heard about this matter. Actually, the two of them didn't have bad intentions. He had already heard the whole process from the attendant. Although he felt that it was a bit strange, the two of them didn't have any bad intentions. He just didn't expect things to develop like this. Hearing the shopkeeper's words, the others all showed dissatisfaction. I say, shopkeeper, you couldn't have been bribed, right? Isn't it strange that these two people came here for no reason? Don't forget what we've always done. When Bailey Hongzhuang came downstairs, they happened to hear the crowd's conversation. Noticing their appearance, the crowd's expressions were still ugly. It was as if they didn't care about what Bailey Hongzhuang thought. Seeing this, they pretended they didn't hear anything and slowly walked out of the inn. From the looks of it, we have to find a place as soon as possible. Otherwise, the shopkeeper won't be able to withstand the pressure, Bailey Hongzhuang said. Di Beichen nodded slightly. He has already gone out to help us find a place. He should be very fast. We should be able to leave in about 2 days. I hope so. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Under such circumstances, it would be difficult for the attendants to find a place for them. Master, if we really can't do it, we could just build our own house. It's not like we haven't done it before, Xiaohei suggested. Chapter 7086. The situation was much better than what Bailey Hongzhuang had expected. It didn't take long for the waiter to find a suitable house for them. I didn't expect you to be so fast. It's really unexpected. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. The waiter scratched his head. This house is related to me, so it's very convenient to rent it to you. But you can see the current situation. Everyone doesn't approve of you staying here. Even if you open this shop, I'm afraid it won't be easy. It's okay. This situation is also within our expectations. After Bailey Hongzhuang and Bailey Hongzhuang saw that the situation of the shop was quite difficult, they moved out of the inn. The place that the waiter found for them was not big, but it was enough for the two of them. There was a shop front in front and a house behind for living. During this process, they became more and more familiar with the waiter and learned that his name was Shun Xuxing. If you want to make a signboard, you have to go to the shop behind the town and ask someone to help make a signboard. The waiter looked at the door. Since they were going to open a shop, a signboard was naturally indispensable. Thank you. Then you go ahead. If you need any help, you can find me. I have to go back to the inn now. After the waiter introduced the situation here, he took the lead and left. Bailey Hongzhuang and Dijio also noticed that many people outside had noticed them moving here. There was a bit of sizing up in their eyes. The two closed the door directly. They were obviously not interested in finding a place outside to make a signboard. They didn't know what kind of cold treatment they would receive there. Therefore, the two took this opportunity to go back to the upper realm. Everything was fine in the upper realm. After Di Xiaofeng and the others returned, the Di family's hearts calmed down a lot. Di Beichen directly ordered someone to do the signboard and asked someone to help buy some necessary things. Only then did he go to the martial arts field. Since Xiaofeng came back, he is focused on guiding the family's disciples in cultivation. He comes to the martial arts field almost every day. Everyone likes him very much. Practicing martial arts has become the favorite thing of almost every disciple. Lin Yunqing's face was full of smiles. Seeing that her two sons were so promising, she really felt very proud. Big Brother is indeed very interested in this. I believe that with his guidance, everyone will improve very quickly. Lin Yunqing nodded slightly. I've heard about this from your father. Recently, everyone's passion for cultivation has been unprecedentedly high. Now, let alone in Emperor Cloud City, even outside, Everyone knows how outstanding the children of our D family are. That's good. Bailey Hongzhuang was also very happy. How's your recent progress? Lin Yinqing was also aware of Di Beichen's current plans. Even though she had only heard about it, she knew that this matter was not as simple as it seemed. Not bad, I guess, Di Beichen replied. We have already reached the border of the crossing immortal domain, but it will take some time to enter. It's definitely not going to be easy. It's going to take some time. Lin Yunqing's expression was gentle. Don't feel too much pressure. I heard that this is a very difficult task. Even if you can't succeed, it's nothing. Chapter 7087. Lin Yunqing's eyes were filled with gentleness and pity. These two children were too outstanding, so they carried more responsibilities than others. She had always been a little distressed, but thinking about it carefully, this was actually a good thing. At least, the upper realm was no longer a world that could restrict them. When the two arrived at the battle arena, they saw a group of young disciples gathered together. Di Xiaofeng was on the battle arena, and below him, a large number of Di family disciples were standing in several square formations, looking like they were training in an orderly manner. Upon closer inspection, they could see that Xiren, Shangguan Yingying, and the others were below at this moment, in charge of the cultivators in each area. It seems that you've adapted well. Di Beichun chuckled faintly. Hearing this voice, Di Xiaofeng, who was on the high platform, immediately turned his head and saw Di Beichun at a glance. His face suddenly showed a deep joy. Why are you back? Di Xiaofeng leaped and quickly jumped down from the high platform. After seeing the familiar figure, the other disciples' faces were filled with excitement. Young master, young madam. Di Beichun waved at everyone. Cultivate well. Almost all of the family's children, the moment they saw Di Beichun, their eyes bloomed with a strong brilliance. Now, Di Beichun was the faith in their hearts, the person they worshipped the most in the family. Even if Di Beichun rarely stayed in the family, the influence he brought was unparalleled. As long as they went out and mentioned that they were part of the Di family, they would feel proud from the bottom of their hearts. Yes, the loud response spread throughout the entire battle arena. It was just a simple sentence, but it seemed to inspire everyone present. Di Xiaofeng looked at this scene, and a deep sense of helplessness appeared in his eyes. He walked to Di Beichen's side and said, I originally thought that everyone was enthusiastic enough when I appeared, but with your appearance, it was simply like a drizzle. Don't you know Beichen's influence? He is the founder of the Dark Sacred Assembly. Bailey Yunyan chuckled. It's impossible for you to compete with Beichen in terms of influence. Alas, once upon a time, my status in the Di family was unparalleled. Forget it. When Xiren ran over, I heard that you put all your efforts into chasing after Yunyan. You didn't even spend much time in the family. Of course, your influence is undeniable. No one will think you're mute if you don't speak. Today, they dismissed everyone early and sat in the room to talk. It wasn't until Di Beichun explained the recent situation that everyone understood. From what you've said, this matter is indeed a little tricky. Di Xiaofeng frowned. Although he had already guessed that this matter would not be so smooth, he did not expect that even finding the entrance would be so difficult. In this kind of environment, it's not easy to be accepted. I think you'll have to prepare yourselves for a long time. We're already prepared. This time, we came back mainly to be the signboard. Di Beichun took Bailey Hongzhuang and smiled. You must have confidence in Hongzhuang's pills. Of course, we have absolute confidence in Hongzhuang. Chapter 7088. Di Xiaofeng patted Di Beichen's shoulder with a serious expression. This trip was actually related to the safety of the entire Di family. Even though he had already returned to the family, he couldn't help but worry. Beichen and the others' feelings should be even more complicated. We understand. After some small talk, Lin Yinqing and Xiao Wanrong invited them to have a meal. Then the two of them returned to the chaotic immortal realm. After returning, Di Beichun directly hung up the plaque. Immortal Treasure Pavilion. Looking at this familiar name, the two of them couldn't help but think of Gong Jun. Not bad. This plaque is very impressive. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded with satisfaction. The Di family was really full of talents. This kind of plaque didn't need to be custom-made in Dian City. The people in the family had already helped them make it. Whether it was the size or other things, it was very fitting. Immortal Treasure Pavilion? What's going on? Could it be that these two are going to open a shop? This morning, we were still talking to the shopkeeper about finding a way to drive these two guys out. I didn't expect them to open a shop here in the blink of an eye. What are they planning to do? I don't know where these two people came from. I don't know what they are planning. Everyone should be careful. Everyone's expression was very complicated. They had almost made up their minds. If these two people didn't leave, they would collectively drive them out. The next day, the door of Immortal Treasure Pavilion opened. 3 simple and generous containers were ready. There were some pills, formation stones, and runes placed in the containers. These were all things that they had made. Presumably, the most popular among them should be pills. The demand for formation stones and runes was relatively high in the outside world, but it might not be so here. Shun Xuxing came early in the morning. After noticing that the two of them had prepared everything, he was very surprised. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and explained that they had also opened a shop before. Only then did he understand. No wonder you can prepare so well. Shun Xuxing looked at the pills in the cabinet. The names and effects of the pills were written on them. He suddenly felt envious. The medicinal pills in this container were all types of medicinal pills that they needed very much right now. Almost any cultivator who saw them could not help but feel envious. Miss Bailey, your alchemist rank is already so high. You can even refine these pills? Most of them were pills that could help Radiant Sun Realm cultivators break through to the elementary immortal realm. Although it didn't go out often, he knew how hard it was to get these pills. Even if there were many alchemists outside, the number of people who could refine medicinal pills of this grade was also not many. I've been studying alchemy for many years since I was a child. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Shen Suxing's eyes were filled with admiration. Putting aside his background, such an identity would be highly respected no matter where he went. I'll recommend it to my friends. I've heard them talk about these pills before. It's just that outside, it's often only possible to find them in auctions or other places. It's also a matter of luck. If they know that you sell it here, they will be overjoyed. Then I'll have to trouble you. You're welcome. They still owe me a favor. For 3 days in a row, no one showed any interest in the Immortal Treasure Pavilion. Chapter 7089. Say, what kind of store do you think these two have opened? I see that there's something in that container. I heard from Shun Xuxing that they sell pills here. That lady is a very powerful alchemist. Don't talk nonsense. I think that lady looks ordinary. If she's really an alchemist, why would she come here? How am I talking nonsense? Shun Xuxing told me very seriously. There are many pills that can help cultivators break through. They even have the Immortal Establishment pill that we've always needed. Even if they really do have it, it might not be true. Bailey Hongzhuang and Deep Beichun leaned leisurely against the reclining chairs, listening to the discussions outside with casual expressions. Jiang Taigong was fishing, and those who were willing to take the bait would take. What they had to do now was wait. No matter how long they waited, someone would eventually take the bait. Lu Qiyu looked at the open store and heard that Bailey Hongzhuang was an alchemist. His expression changed a little. There was a big gap between the status of a doctor and an alchemist. An alchemist's status was more respected. Father, that lady is not only a doctor, but also an alchemist. She might really be able to save our family. Stop daydreaming, Lu Jin reprimanded. If she really had such status and ability, who knows how many people would ask her for help on a daily basis? Would it even be your turn? Lu Qiyu pursed his lips. I'm just trying to make a Hail Mary effort. Anyway, death is not a matter of time. If you talk nonsense again, do you believe that I won't tear your mouth apart? All right. I won't talk about it anymore. Lu Qiyu rolled his eyes. In his heart, he still felt that the lady looked calm and peaceful. She didn't seem like a charlatan. Finally, the Immortal Treasure Pavilion welcomed its first customer. However, it was an unexpected customer. You actually have the Immortal Establishment pill here? The lady looked at the pills in the cabinet in astonishment. She came from Pingfeng City and naturally knew how precious the Immortal Establishment pill was. Even in other places, the Immortal Establishment pill was a treasure that people would fight over, not to mention this place where even birds wouldn't shit. However, These two seemingly ordinary fellows were able to take out the immortal establishment pill right off the bat. This was simply too unbelievable. Yao Yao, I think this immortal establishment pill is definitely fake. Why are you taking it to heart? The man at the side couldn't help but say, let's leave this place. If others see this, we might even be ostracized. Ning Yao Yao impatiently glanced at the man. Look at your useless appearance. I think that Lu Qiyu is stronger than you. Lu Qiyu was defeated by me. Then stop talking nonsense. Ning Yao Yao looked towards Bailey Hongzhuang. I say, is this pill real? Since I'm opening my store, I'll naturally be honest. If there's any problem with the pills, feel free to look for me. Hearing this, Ning Yao Yao couldn't help but glance at Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang's words were very confident, and it was clear that what he said was true. All right, then I'll buy an immortal establishment pill. When she thought of Di Beichen's grace at the elementary immortal stage, she hoped that she could break through to the elementary immortal stage as soon as possible. This way, as long as they had the chance to meet again in the future, the distance between them would be closer. She vaguely felt that Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang might have already gone to the immortal region, and it would be impossible for her to meet Di Beichen if she stayed in the immortal region of chaos. Chapter 7090. Looking at the prices on the shelves, Ning Yao Yao couldn't help but feel the pinch. Such a price was simply devastating. I'm being honest. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't explain. Since she was doing business, she naturally would make a loss. If this immortal establishment pill was in the outside world, it would only appear in an auction, and the price would definitely be higher than the listed price. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's unfriendly attitude, the man was a little dissatisfied, but Ning Yao Yao felt that this was the right attitude. Okay, I'll buy one immortal establishment pill. Bailey Hongzhuang took the Chinquan bag and checked the blood spirit stones inside before taking out the pill. Yao Yao, I advise you to reconsider. If you buy it at such a high price and it doesn't have any use, wouldn't it be a waste? They're outsiders. As long as they want to leave, wouldn't it be easy? The man's face was full of doubt. Such a price made even his heart ache. Then help me keep an eye on them. Ning Yao Yao picked up the pill and walked out without saying anything. Did you hear me? I'll go back and test the effects of this pill. During this time, keep an eye on them and don't let them run away. Hearing this, the man nodded awkwardly. Okay. 2 days later, when Ning Yao Yao appeared again, the man quickly went up to her. Yao Yao, do you want to catch these two guys immediately? The man's expression was serious. Everyone wants to chase them away. Once we find out that they're selling fake pills, they'll have to leave their lives here. What nonsense are you talking about? Ning Yao Yao looked unhappy. What's wrong? They're not selling fake pills, they're real. Ning Yao Yao couldn't help but look up at the immortal treasure pavilion with amazement in her eyes. At first, she was also skeptical. However, after trying it out, she understood that this medicinal pill was real. However, this made her even more regretful. Such a precious pill should be taken at a more suitable time. She didn't even feel that she was about to break through the barrier. She was just trying it as a last resort. After all, she didn't even have the qualifications to compete for this kind of pill in the outside world. What did you say? The man was also dumbfounded. This pill is real? Do you think I would lie to you? Ning Yao Yao rolled her eyes. It's a pity that my cultivation wasn't high enough and I couldn't successfully break through. However, the man simply couldn't hear what Ning Yao Yao had to say. All he could think about was that the immortal establishment pill was real. Yao Yao, you stay here for a while. I'm going home. After exhorting a few words, the man rushed back home without stopping. Ning Yao Yao looked in the direction the man left in puzzlement. She was too lazy to pay attention to him and went straight back to the inn. Immortal Treasure Pavilion welcomed its second guest. Bailey Hongzhuang recognized at a glance that this was the man who was with Ning Yao Yao. Noticing his behavior, she understood in her heart. I want to buy one immortal establishment pill. The man kept calculating in his heart. No, I want to. Bailey Hongzhuang took out 2 pills and looked at the blood spirit stone the man brought over. She couldn't help but frown. Sir, I'm afraid there's something wrong with your calculations. The man's expression was a little awkward. I want to discuss it with you. This shop doesn't accept credit. Baichen's voice slowly rang out. Chapter 7091. You can take it out and have a look. The man hesitantly took out a black stone and handed it to Baichen. This is it. I'll give you a certain amount of this in exchange. Baichen looked at the stone in his hand, and his expression changed slightly. Sure enough, the devouring spirit stone had appeared. They thought it would take a little longer to see the devouring spirit stone, but it was much faster than they expected. Seeing Baichen's calm expression, the man couldn't help but feel a little anxious. Don't underestimate this stone. This is a devouring spirit stone. It can help cultivators improve their mental strength. This thing's value can only be higher than the blood spirit stone. Let me see. Baichen carefully looked at the stone for a moment, then said, "Okay." Hearing this, the man breathed a sigh of relief. After taking out a portion of the devouring spirit stone, he put the 2 pills into his bag. Before leaving, he whispered, "Don't tell anyone about this, especially about the devouring spirit stone. Otherwise, not only me, but you will also be in trouble." "Okay, don't take it lightly. This is really serious." "Got it." After the man left, Baichen put away the devouring spirit stone. It's probably very difficult to not let others know. He glanced outside from the corner of his eyes. He noticed that after this man came in, there were already people outside who had noticed this scene. The news of the devouring spirit stone may be kept a secret, but the news of buying pills should spread quickly. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. The more familiar a place was, the faster the news would spread. "Did you hear? Suyu went to the Immortal Treasure Pavilion to buy pills. I heard that the first person to buy was Ning Yao Yao, and then Suyu also went. Doesn't this mean that the pills sold here are very likely to be real? I wonder what kind of pills are sold here?" Everyone was a little curious, but they looked at each other. No one went in first, and their minds were full of doubts. "Shopkeeper, there are immortal establishment pills in the Immortal Treasure Pavilion, as well as many pills that can help increase one's cultivation. Now that everyone is a little tempted, who knows when they will go in? I think that Suyu must have bought a lot of things inside. Don't miss it." Shun Xuxing looked at the shopkeeper, who was a little tempted, and reminded him. The shopkeeper looked at Shun Xuxing helplessly. "I think you trust them completely now. You even came to me as a lobbyist." "Shopkeeper, it's because we've known each other for so many years that I don't want you to miss out on something good. You're accusing me wrongly." "That's true. But haven't you noticed that everyone is starting to ostracize Suyu? At a time like this, it's best if you don't show yourself. Otherwise, you'll inevitably get into trouble." The shopkeeper sighed. In fact, he did not have any prejudice against these 2 people, especially after seeing that Shun Xuxing's hidden illness had been cured. He no longer rejected them. "Shopkeeper, don't worry. Don't worry about me." Shun Xuxing waved his hand nonchalantly. "I'm friends with them." "All right then, I'll support you. How about you buy me an immortal establishment pill?" "Okay." Chapter 7092. Thank you so much for your help. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were gentle. "You're welcome. I didn't really help much. It's mainly because you guys are amazing." Shun Xuxing smiled. "I believe that after the shopkeeper uses this immortal establishment pill, you'll find out what you've been looking for." Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes brightened. His words revealed a lot of information. "The shopkeeper's transformation is all thanks to you." Baichen's expression was serious. Originally, they just made a deal with Shun Xuxing. They hadn't expected that they'd become friends. However, such a change was also worth celebrating. Lu Qiyu was even more moved after hearing this news. When he saw Shun Xuxing walk out of the Immortal Treasure Pavilion, he hurried over to greet him. "Xuxing, don't you want to buy anything here?" Shun Xuxing didn't deny it. "Qiyu, my old illness has been cured. It's all thanks to Miss Bailey. When I called you over, although it was more for the pills I needed, I didn't want to harm you. Although I haven't seen her medical skills, her alchemy skills are really outstanding." Seeing Shun Xuxing's serious expression, Lu Qiyu nodded slightly. "I know. Are you really not going to consider giving it another try?" Shun Xuxing's brows furrowed with worry. "Your family situation. If there's hope, I think you should give it a try." The 2 of them had known each other for many years. Although they weren't brothers, they were good friends. He didn't want Lu Qiyu to disappear from the world like his family. Lu Qiyu's eyes dimmed for a moment. Then he laughed heartily and said, I want to, but my father is watching me so closely now. Not to mention going in, even if I pass by in front, I may be taught a lesson. Why find a chance? I'll give it a try. Shen Xuxing nodded. Don't wait too long. He knew that Di Beiqin and Bailey Hongzhuang had come here mainly for the spirit-devouring stone. If they didn't find any clues after staying here for a while, they probably wouldn't stay here for long. Don't worry, I won't die so easily. Lu Qiyu chuckled, but his eyes unconsciously darkened. All the cultivators in the town seemed to maintain a mysterious tacit understanding. Although everyone wanted to enter the immortal treasure pavilion from the bottom of their hearts, no one took the lead. Under such circumstances, the immortal treasure pavilion was quiet for a long time. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beiqin spent all their time cultivating, thanks to the many fruits they brought from the immortal treasure realm. However, after reaching the elementary immortal stage, the breakthrough would become even more difficult. The time it would take to accumulate would definitely be much longer. In fact, the two of them didn't even know what kind of cultivation level they would reach in the future. They would only know all of this after entering the immortal realm. Come. However, the two of them, who were living a very leisurely life here, did not know that not long after they left, Shiyun City had also caused quite a commotion. A group of people suddenly entered Shiyun City. They were all very powerful, attracting the attention of the entire city. Chapter 7093. Just as everyone was panicking, that group of people suddenly disappeared, as if they had never been there in the first place. Only then did all the cultivators in Cloud City breathe a sigh of relief. However, during this process, very few people noticed that the shopkeeper of the Immortal Treasure Pavilion, Gong Jun, had disappeared as well. Almost everyone in the town was waiting for the day when Bailey Hongzhuang and Su Xian would lose their cool. However, the situation was completely different from what they had expected. The two of them had no intention of losing their cool at all. Even if no one went in to buy the elixirs, they were not anxious at all. They rarely went out, and the only person they communicated with was Shen Xuxing from the inn. At this point, everyone already knew that Shen Xuxing had recovered from his old injury. Perhaps it was because he was the only person who had a relationship with the Immortal Treasure Pavilion, so everyone did not target him too much. They hoped to hear some relevant news from him. The peaceful life was broken by a shocking aura. After the entire town sensed that shocking aura, they all ran out of their houses. This is the aura of breaking through to the elementary immortal stage. Looking at the direction of the aura, it seems to be coming from Su Shan's house. Su Shan broke through? That's impossible. Everyone was dumbfounded. Among them, there were countless cultivators in the Brilliant Sun realm, but a cultivator who had truly broken through to the elementary immortal stage was rarely seen even in the history of their town. This was because they knew too well that once a cultivator broke through to the elementary immortal stage, their status would change completely. All of them would no longer be on the same level as Su Shan. Su Shan had completely crushed all of them. Everyone cannot help but feel envious. Such a breakthrough was the dream of every cultivator. That's not right. I clearly heard Su Shan say that it was too difficult to break through, and there was almost no hope. How did he suddenly break through? Everyone looked at each other. They lived together all day and were very clear about everyone's situation. Su Shan's sudden breakthrough could not have been possible without an opportunity. I remember that Su Shang's son went to the Immortal Treasure Pavilion to buy elixirs, right? I heard that they have the Immortal Establishment Pill. It was unknown who suddenly mentioned this, but the expressions of everyone present suddenly became very strange. I've already heard that it's true. If it's true, then Su Shan's breakthrough must have something to do with this pill. That old fellow is really unkind. He didn't even tell us about such a good thing and secretly went there himself. In an instant, everyone couldn't help but slap their thighs in regret. It wasn't until this moment that they finally understood. Regardless of whether these two people were outsiders or not, the fact that they possessed such pills was the most important piece of information. That was because only when one's strength increased, that would be the source of change. At this moment, everyone looked at the immortal treasure pavilion with burning eyes. A series of hurried footsteps could be heard. Xiao He quickly ran into the courtyard. "Master, there are many people in the shop. Come quickly." The two of them walked over unhurriedly. From a moment, they sensed the aura of the breakthrough. Such a scene was already within their expectations. Chapter 7094. The Immortal Establishment Pill was the best pill for Radiant Sun Stage cultivators to break through to the elementary immortal stage. There was naturally a reason why it was so highly regarded. This person could use the Immortal Establishment Pill to break through, which showed that his own strength was not bad. All the rejection and dissatisfaction could not resist the temptation of the elementary immortal stage. At this moment, the Immortal Treasure Pavilion was no longer a target of exclusion in the eyes of the crowd, but a good place for them to compete for medicine. "Shopkeeper, I want to buy an Immortal Establishment Pill." "Shopkeeper, I want to buy it too. Here are blood spirit stones. Give it to me first." Looking at the crowd in front of them, the usual disdain and contempt had long disappeared, replaced by warmth and closeness. Everyone seemed to have forgotten their previous disagreements and tried their best to use smiling faces to get closer to each other. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice slowly rang out. "There's only one Immortal Establishment Pill left." These words were like a heavy bomb that exploded in everyone's hearts. Everyone looked at her in disbelief, as if they had heard the most unbelievable thing. "How could that be? Shopkeeper, you can't be thinking of raising the price, right? The people who came to buy it before all bought it very smoothly. Could it be that you saw that we came together, so you want to raise the price?" Everyone looked suspicious. In this kind of situation, raising the price was very normal. How could a pill like the Immortal Establishment Pill be so easy to obtain? Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was indifferent. Not to mention the difficulty of refining the pill. Just gathering the immortal spirit herbs to refine the Immortal Establishment Pill is not easy. I originally had a total of 5 Immortal Establishment Pills, but now I've sold 4. There's only one left. Hearing this, the crowd finally understood. Indeed, the Immortal Establishment Pill was a treasure that could only be encountered by chance and not sought after by Radiant Sun Stage cultivators. 5 Immortal Establishment Pills. From a normal point of view, this was already very heaven-defying. Sold 5 pills? You should have only sold 2 of them. Everyone could not help but be puzzled. Ning Yao Yao and Su Yu were only 2 people. Just because you didn't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Di Beichen's voice rang out. Everyone looked at each other, their expressions becoming very ugly. They thought that everyone was abiding by the agreement like them, but they did not expect that someone had already secretly bought it. "Sell this last one to me. I'll increase the price. Sell the last one to me. I'll pay double." The people in the small town seemed to have gone crazy, madly increasing the price. If they missed this opportunity, perhaps they would never be able to see a second Immortal Establishment Pill in their lifetime. In such a situation, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun were not in a hurry. They simply allowed everyone to raise the price. The highest bidder would win. This was a principle that worked no matter the time. Lu Qiu looked at his father with a helpless expression on his face. "Father, I think you're just a stubborn old man. With Bailey Hongzhuang's ability, she might really be able to cure me. At that time, not only me, but my entire family will be spared." Lu Jin's expression was still cold and hard. "Don't mess around with everyone else. It would be strange if these 2 people stayed here despite having such means. Why do you care if they have ulterior motives? It's fine as long as we can keep our lives." Chapter 7095. If you can get the Immortal Establishment Pill, you'll definitely be able to break through. Lu Qiu looked at Lu Jin excitedly. An expert in the elementary celestial stage would definitely raise his family status. However, no matter what he said, Lu Jin remained unmoved. In the end, Lu Qiu could only give up Immortal Treasure Pavilion. Finally, the Immortal Establishment Pill was sold for 5 times the price. Although the cultivator who won the bid couldn't help but feel heartache, his mood improved a lot when he saw the size of the people around him. As long as he could break through to the elementary celestial stage, all of this was nothing. The people in this town are really rich. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. The bidding just now was quite a big scene. Although the price of her immortal establishment pill wasn't high, it was still the normal price. Most ordinary cultivators could only look at such a price and sigh. However, almost everyone in this town had the power to compete. The difference between them could be seen. He didn't pay immediately, right? D. Baichen's lips curled up slightly. It seems I will be able to see another guy with a spirit-devouring stone. The other party didn't pay immediately. Instead, he said that he would go home and get it before coming back. If he wasn't wrong, his response should be the same as Su Yu's. For the people in this town, there might be more spirit-devouring stones than blood spirit stones. If we can follow this lead to get information, it'll be great. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. They hadn't found a breakthrough yet. This guy might be another possibility. Thinking about it carefully, they had been in this town for almost a month. However, they didn't see any movement from the others, let alone any interaction with the crossing celestial domain. It could be seen that these people were very secretive. If they couldn't find a breakthrough, they wouldn't be able to find anything just by observing. In the end, the shopkeeper looked at the immortal establishment pill in his hand and couldn't help but feel lucky. Su Xing, if you hadn't helped me buy this immortal establishment pill earlier, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to buy it today. Su Xing was a little surprised. He didn't expect everyone to be so crazy. I heard that the price has increased by 5 times today, but in the outside world, I think it's still worth it. The shopkeeper nodded slightly. You're right. Those two are capable people. Noticing that the shopkeeper's attitude towards Di Beichun had softened a lot, Shun Shuxing asked tentatively, Shopkeeper, what about the deal they mentioned before? Let me think about it. Perhaps I can believe you. Hearing this, a hint of joy appeared in Shun Shuxing's eyes. That's great. I didn't expect you to help them so much even though you haven't known them for long. Actually, I just don't think they're bad people. Shun Shuxing smiled faintly, a trace of contemplation in the depths of his eyes. Vaguely, he had a feeling that Di Beichen and Yang Kai had come here for more than just the devouring spirit stones. As for what they were here for, he couldn't figure it out. However, he was certain that these two people did not have any ill intentions, so he did not want to speculate too much. At night, the cultivator who bought the pills came. Let me introduce myself. I'm Duan Chun, so it's Young Master Duan. Chapter 7096. Young Master Duan, could it be that you want to use something else as collateral? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Duan Chun was slightly startled, then nodded. You're really smart, but I wonder if this will work. If I say no, will Young Master Duan return the elixir? This? Duan Chin's expression suddenly became very nervous. I'm just joking. Di Beichen smiled faintly. But we'll have to see what you want to use as collateral. If it's a spirit-devouring stone, then it's fine, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly said. Spirit-devouring stone? Duan Chun was startled. How do you know about the spirit-devouring stone? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. The immortal establishment elixir is indeed expensive, but other elixirs are also extremely valuable. Although many people in the town still have misunderstandings about us, there are also friends who accept us. Isn't the spirit-devouring stone the most unique thing in town? Duan Chin was dumbfounded. After returning, he had thought for a long time before deciding to use the spirit-devouring stone instead of the blood spirit stone. Because their town was really far from the outside world, it was more troublesome to exchange the blood spirit stone every time. The appearance of Di Beichun, Duan Chun, and Ning Yao Yao had caused them to not dare to make any transactions recently. They were running low on blood spirit stones, so they came up with this idea. He felt that as long as he concealed it and came up with another reason, Di Beichun and Duan Chun would not think too much about it. However, looking at the two of them, it was obvious that they already knew about it. I see. Duan Chin's expression was slightly complicated, but soon became clear again. In that case, I've always been too narrow-minded. It turns out that the two of you already knew about it, but this news can't be told to anyone else. Young Master Duan, don't worry. We know how serious this matter is. If we didn't know that you're from town, we wouldn't have told you. We only brought it up because we don't want you to feel burdened. Duan Chin nodded slightly. You're right. In that case, I won't hide it from you. I do want to exchange the spirit-devouring stone. This is a spirit-devouring stone. Its value is also determined by its value in the outside world. Bei Chun took the devouring spirit stone and glanced at it. He already had an idea. Young Master Duan, I have a question. If you can answer me, I don't mind giving you this immortal establishment pill. Duan Zhang's eyes lit up, and then he said with some fear, I wonder what young Master Du wants to ask. If it's something that shouldn't be asked, I'm afraid I won't be able to answer. I shouldn't have asked this question, but I still want to ask. The two of them stared at each other for a long time before Duan Shan said, You can tell us. These spirit-devouring stones were really expensive. Even if it was him, after taking them out, he would become very poor for a period of time. If he could really take it back, it would undoubtedly be for the best. How can I enter the crossing immortal domain? As soon as these words were spoken, Duan Chun was instantly shocked, and he hurriedly glanced at the surroundings before he said, Young Master D, have you gone mad? This is a big taboo. Bei Chun was not in a hurry. He had already set up a barrier outside, and no one could hear the conversation inside. Even Su Shun, who had just broken through to the elementary immortal stage, could not. Chapter 7097. I'm sorry, I can't answer your question. Duan Shin quickly stood up. He did not want to say anything else and hurriedly walked out. Young Master Duan, I don't intend to pry into the town's secrets. I have my reasons for asking this, Bei Chun said slowly. Duan Shin's footsteps paused slightly. Young Master Duan, I hope you can keep tonight's matter a secret, Bailey Hongzhuang said. Duan Shin stopped walking and looked at the two people behind him with a puzzled expression. Reasons for your reasons? I can see that the two of you are not ordinary people, especially the ability to refine the immortal establishment pill. You must be famous in the chaotic immortal realm. What's your purpose for coming here? Duan Shin's expression became solemn. If the two of them really wanted to dig out everything here, they would definitely die. Young Master Duan, can you take a seat first? Duan Chun slowly walked back and sat down. His expression was not as friendly as before. Please tell me. To tell you the truth, when we first ascended, we were captured and sent to mine. If it weren't for our good luck, we would have lost our lives by now. So, we're not unfamiliar with the spirit-devouring stone. You were captured to mine? Duan Chun was in disbelief. Impossible. Almost no one came out alive from the spirit-devouring stone. If you really had such an experience, you wouldn't be like this now. In the next moment, Bei Chun took out a shovel. Young Master Duan, do you recognize this? Duan Chun looked at the shovel in front of him. His eyes suddenly froze. He instinctively took the shovel and studied it carefully. His expression became very strange. You really stayed in the spirit-devouring stone? Yes. It's unbelievable that the people in the spirit-devouring stone escaped. It was a riot. They won't let you go easily. That's because an expert saved us. The hostility in Duan Chen's eyes softened a little. However, it was not completely gone. Since you've already escaped, why did you come back now? We still have family members in there, Bei Chen said. Duan Chun immediately understood. You want to save your family members? Yes. At this moment, Duan Jiedan understood. No wonder these two people would appear here and even sell the immortal establishment pills like this. It turned out that they were looking for a way to enter the immortal domain. Let me give the two of you a word of advice. Whether you live or die is up to fate. You were able to escape because of your great fortune. You are not fated to die. Since the others couldn't come out, they naturally had their own destinies. All these years, the entrance to the crossing immortal domain has been sealed. It's almost impossible for you to enter. Moreover, once you enter, it's even more impossible for you to come out. We just want to know if there's a way in. There's no other way. Duan Chun shook his head. If young Master Duan has any news, you can inform me at any time. I won't mistreat you. Bei Chen did not say anything else. It was already good enough that Duan Zhang could say this much. It would be strange if he told them tonight. Standing in front of the door, Duan Chun said, I won't tell anyone about what happened tonight, but I advise the two of you not to tell anyone else. Thanks for the reminder. Chapter 7098. Even though Duan Chun did not reveal much information to them, His reaction had already told them a lot. The town was indeed connected to the crossing immortal domain, and this connection had been secretly going on ever since the crossing immortal domain was closed. However, it should only involve the trade of spirit-devouring stones. It was impossible to get the people inside to come out. Master, as long as they can trade for spirit-devouring stones, we can go in. Even if it was just a small hole, it and Xiao Bai could shrink and bring their master and the others in. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. I've already found out some things tonight. This Duan Chen doesn't seem to be a scheming person. Compared to Lu Jin, who was difficult to approach, Duan Chen was undoubtedly much better. Maybe we could try to start with him? Xiao Bai asked. Duan Chen probably doesn't know much. Di Beichen's voice rang out. What? If he knew, his expression wouldn't be like this. I'm guessing that although this town is doing business related to spirit-devouring stones, not everyone has access to the core. I think the shopkeeper should know more than Duan Chen. Coincidentally, Shun Xuxing brought good news today. He said that the shopkeeper has already considered doing business with us. That's great. Ever since the immortal establishment pills were sold out, the people in the town no longer rejected Di Beichen and Xiao Bai. After all, they had already been in before. If they acted like that again, it would be embarrassing. Under such circumstances, other medicinal pills also became very popular. Of course, there were also people who asked Bailey Hongzhuang to refine pills for them. As long as the price was right, Bailey Hongzhuang would not refuse. The moon was high in the sky, and the cool breeze was like water. Bailey Hongzhuang was resting in the house when she suddenly heard a hurried voice from outside. Miss Bailey, are you there? Shen Xianglin is dying. Please take a look at him. Io, what's wrong? Shen Xianglin suddenly fainted. Dr. Yang has already seen him and said that he can't be cured. We can only ask Miss Bailey if there's a way to cure him. Hearing this, everyone also understood. They only had one doctor here, and that was Dr. Yang. Usually, if Dr. Yang said that he couldn't cure it, then everyone was at their wits' end. The only way was to run outside. However, in the past, when such a situation occurred, even if he ran outside, it was mostly useless. Bailey Hongzhuang walked out of the house and saw Shun Xuxing and the shopkeeper carrying a person. The person's face was pale, and he was unconscious. Xuxing, what's going on? Shun Xuxing shook his head. We don't know. He was fine at first, but he suddenly fainted. Bring it in first. Let me have a look. Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand, and Shun Xuxing and the shopkeeper quickly carried Shun Xianglin inside. Although the others wanted to follow him in, they were stopped by Di Beichen. Seeing a doctor requires a quiet environment. I hope everyone can wait outside. Seeing this, although everyone was filled with curiosity, they still stopped walking and stood outside to watch. Miss Bailey, please save my son. The shopkeeper's eyes were red. He only had one son. If something happened to him, he would really... Chapter 7099. Shopkeeper, don't worry. I'll do my best. Bailey Hongzhuang hid the surprise in her eyes. She didn't expect that the person who fainted would be the shopkeeper's son. However, this was a good opportunity for them. The shopkeeper nodded repeatedly and stepped aside. He didn't dare to disturb them. His face was still red and full of nervousness. With their physique, ordinary diseases wouldn't cause any trouble for them at all. Such a situation meant that it wasn't simple. They all knew about Dr. Yang's strength. Even in the outside world, his medical skills were very strong. In fact, when Dr. Yang said that there was no cure, his heart had already turned cold. Shun Xuxing reminded him to come here and give it a try. He had a glimmer of hope just now, but he also understood that this hope was too slim. Bailey Hongzhuang carefully checked Shun Xianglin's pulse. Suddenly, her expression became very strange. Miss Bailey, can you be saved? Shun Xuxing looked nervously at Bailey Hongzhuang. His face was full of worry. Do you know that he's poisoned? Yes. You know, Bailey Hongzhuang was stunned. She knew that Shun Xianglin was poisoned as soon as she took his pulse. It was obvious that someone had poisoned him. The shopkeeper nodded. Sometimes things like this happen here. It's just that we don't know who did it. Does your town have such a history? Bailey Hongzhuang was a little startled. Weren't the people in this town very familiar with each other? That appearance of a common enemy made them look like a family. She didn't expect such a thing to happen. Indeed, the shopkeeper was a little helpless. It happened in our town before, but we couldn't find out who did it. Every time this happens, people usually lose their lives. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun looked at each other. It seemed that the water in this town was very deep, whether it was Shun Xianglin's poisoning or Lu Qiyu's family's curse. These things seem to have some kind of connection. Miss Bailey, can you save him? Facing their earnest gazes, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Don't worry, he will wake up tomorrow. The shopkeeper was stunned. Then he grabbed Bailey Hongzhuang tightly. Is what you said true? Can you cure him? That's right. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. The two of them looked at each other and hugged each other excitedly. Shopkeeper, I told you that Miss Bailey would have a way. Don't worry, Xianglin will be fine. Miss Bailey, thank you. I will never forget your kindness. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and waved her hand. Shopkeeper, you don't have to do this. I'll do my best. The poison in Shun Xianglin's body was not simple. It would not be easy for an ordinary doctor to detoxify it. Fortunately, Bailey Hongzhuang had always been very knowledgeable in this area, so she only needed to spend some time to detoxify this kind of poison. However, she was even more curious about who had poisoned Shun Xianglin. The next morning, Shun Xianglin slowly woke up. Water, water. The shopkeeper didn't sleep for the entire night. When he noticed Shun Xianglin's movements, his face was overflowing with excitement. I'll get you some water. Chapter 7100. After drinking a glass of water, Shun Xianglin gradually regained consciousness. What happened to me before this? The shopkeeper's face was solemn. Do you remember what happened before you fainted? Only then did Shun Xianglin realize what had happened before. He suddenly felt a wave of lingering fear. I don't know. I was no different from usual, but when I walked to the inn, my vision suddenly turned black, and I don't remember anything after that. Then who did you meet? Or did something else happen? No. Shun Xianglin shook his head. I stayed at home yesterday and didn't go anywhere else. I only went to the inn at night when I was a little hungry. That's strange. The shopkeeper's face suddenly became very ugly. After noticing Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Xingxing's confusion, he said, all these years, the main reason why we haven't been able to find the culprit is because of this. Almost every time, we can't figure out how the culprit poisoned us, and we have never been able to solve it. Then this place of yours is quite scary. It's very likely that you'll die without knowing why. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. This small town looked calm on the surface, but in fact, it was turbulent. It was obvious that the culprit was a master. Have you offended anyone recently? The shopkeeper couldn't help but ask. The culprit wouldn't poison them for no reason, but they had always been dutiful, and yet the culprit wanted to kill them. Shun Xianglin pondered for a long time, and finally shook his head helplessly. I've been acting like usual recently, and I haven't offended anyone. I don't understand why this kind of thing would happen to me. There must be a reason, but we haven't figured it out yet, Shun Xuxing said thoughtfully. If every poisoning is related to the culprit, then we should be able to identify the culprit if we connect all the incidents together, Di Beichun said. We thought so too, but in fact, even when we connected all the incidents together, we didn't find anything in common. The shopkeeper shook his head helplessly. It's because we couldn't figure out the problem, so gradually, everyone stopped thinking about it. However, usually when something like this happens, the poisoned person will definitely die. This time, Xianglin is still alive. I'm afraid everyone will be very surprised. Shun Xing said slowly. His eyes suddenly changed. If that's the case, won't you be in danger? As soon as these words came out, the expressions of the shopkeeper and the other two became abnormally ugly. If Di Beichun was killed because of helping them, then they would have to bear the blame. Seeing how nervous the three of them were, Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand slightly. Don't worry, I'm a doctor myself. It won't be easy for them to poison me. Other things aside, she was full of confidence in this aspect. Miss Bailey, you must be careful. Why don't you move back to the inn for a while? That way, we could take care of you for free. No need. We'll be fine. Don't worry. Seeing that Di Beichun had made up his mind, the shopkeeper didn't continue to insist. However, he couldn't help but worry. How's Xianglin doing now? Chapter 7101. I don't know who shopkeeper Shen's family offended. This time, Shen Xianglin was poisoned. I'm afraid he won't be able to keep his life. I've seen them enter the Immortal Treasure Pavilion and never come out. Perhaps they've already cured him. I've heard that Lady Bailey's medical skills are very exquisite. You're all too naive. That's impossible. Do you think it's because shopkeeper Shen's relationship with the Immortal Treasure Pavilion that he was poisoned? The crowd discussed animatedly. Not a single one of them did not sympathize with shopkeeper Shen. It was undoubtedly the most painful thing for a white-haired person to send off a black-haired person. However, when it was close to noon, shopkeeper Shen and Shen Xuxing supported Shen Xianglin as they walked out together. The people in the small town were all dumbfounded. Heavens, am I seeing things? Bailey Hongzhuang really cured Shen Xianglin? Doesn't this mean that her medical skills are better than Dr. Yang's? The crowd's expression suddenly became very interesting. Everyone believed that Bailey Hongzhuang's pill refining skills were not bad, but they never thought that her medical skills were also so outstanding. This is great. If something like this happens again in the future, we won't have to wait for death. It was unknown who spoke first, but everyone's eyes suddenly brightened. Poisoning. This matter had always been like a layer of shadow hanging over everyone's hearts. Every time they thought about it, they couldn't help but be alarmed. However, now that there was a doctor who could solve it, everything became much simpler. We have to think of a way to make Lady Bailey stay. In the room, Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. What do you think? We don't know what happened in the past, so we can't judge. However, I feel that it's not just one person who did this kind of thing. Di Beichen raised his eyebrows. Perhaps in the beginning, someone poisoned someone to avenge a personal grudge, causing the effect of panic. Later on, someone imitated this method and put the blame on the first person. It is precisely because there is more than one person that everyone is unable to make a judgment. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes darkened. This was the biggest possibility she could think of, and it was the only way to explain everything. It's undeniable that there must be a person involved in all these events, Di Beichen said. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Now that I think about it, this person is indeed quite scary. Do you have anyone in mind? Actually, I'm quite curious about Dr. Yang here. He's a doctor himself, and his medical skills are quite outstanding. The others here don't know anything about medicine. If he were to do it, the success rate would be very high. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. He is indeed very suspicious, but he has always been safe. Even if it is really him, he must have used other methods to clear everyone's suspicion of him. Bailey Hongzhuang leaned casually on the reclining chair. Actually, this matter has nothing to do with us. The other party can't threaten us. If he really doesn't have eyes and wants to make a move on us, we'll just take care of him. If he doesn't have any intention of being hostile to us, then we'll mind our own business. She never liked to meddle in other people's business, unless something provoked them. Chapter 7102. They had always wanted to find an opportunity to gain shopkeeper Shen's trust. Initially, there was only a glimmer of hope. After this incident, shopkeeper Shen would not hold back too much from him. This was undoubtedly good news. Once Shen Xianglin's condition improves, we can go and ask around. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. They'd been here for so long. Finally, there was progress. On this day, when Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao He walked out of the Immortal Treasure Pavilion, the scene along the way was different. Miss Bailey, you're out for a walk. Young Master D, where do you plan to go? We have a gathering tonight. Do you want to come and have a meal together? Almost everyone they met on the way greeted them warmly. It was as if they were natives of the town. There was no rejection or estrangement at all. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. It had only been a day. What was wrong with the people in the town? Why do I feel like they're suddenly so friendly? Why do I feel like there's a conspiracy? Xiao Hei's face was full of suspicion. As the saying goes, one who is unaccountably solicitous is hiding evil intentions. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and praised. Not bad. You even know how to use these flexibly now. I feel like something is wrong, too. Xiaobai nodded, but I can't figure out why. Di Beichen smiled faintly. You'll understand in a while. Shun family in. Young Master D, you're here. Shun Xuxing's face revealed a happy smile. He quickly invited the two of them in. You haven't eaten yet, right? Let's see what you want to eat. Di Beichun casually ordered a few dishes. At the same time, other people in the inn greeted them with smiles on their faces. They were so familiar with each other that they were like good brothers. In fact, the two of them did not even know who these people were. Xuxing, sit with us. Di Beichun waved his hand. Shopkeeper Shen nodded. Xuxing, you should all gather together. You're not busy now anyway. After Shen Xuxing sat down, he smiled and said, Did you notice that everyone's behavior is very strange? Di Beichun raised his eyebrows. They do change their attitude very quickly. Ha! Shen Xuxing couldn't help but laugh. I actually admire them. They aren't embarrassed at all. Actually, the reason is quite simple. It's because Miss Bailey cured Xianglin. No one knows if this kind of thing will happen to them in the future, so they do their best to build a good relationship with you. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun didn't look too surprised. Previously, they had already guessed this kind of trap, but the people in this small town were too tacit. These guys are really cunning. Xiaohei was secretly speechless. After all this fuss, it turned out that this was the truth. This is a good thing. Bailey Hongzhuang patted Xiaohei's head. This means that everyone is willing to accept us. Shen Xuxing nodded. That's right. You're really amazing. You've been welcomed by everyone so quickly. By the way, Shopkeeper Shun said that he would talk to them about the spirit-devouring stone tonight. However, this matter has to be kept a secret, Shen Xuxing said through voice transmission. Di Beichun and Xiaohei's eyes lit up. As expected, Shopkeeper Shun was returning the favor. We understand. Night gradually enveloped the land. The entire town was covered in a layer of darkness. Chapter 7103. Mr. D, since we're already here, let's get straight to the point. Shopkeeper Shin looked at the two of them and said, My secret room is very well hidden. Apart from the Shun family, no one else knows about its existence. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Shopkeeper Shun had already shown his sincerity by bringing them here. Do you want to do business with me with the soul-devouring stones? Shopkeeper Shin asked. If that's the case, I can work with you. Shopkeeper Shun, since you're so honest, we won't hide it from you anymore. Di Beichen's face was calm, his eyes like the sea twinkling with a star-like luster. Actually, we're not concerned about the soul-devouring stones. Shopkeeper Shun was stunned. This was out of his expectations. We want to know how you got the soul-devouring stones. Shopkeeper Shin's face stiffened when he heard this. He was afraid. Mr. D, I'll remember how you saved Xianglin's life. I'll try my best to do whatever I can. However, I can't tell you this. Bailey Hongzhuang was not surprised by Shopkeeper Shin's attitude. It was within their expectations. We know that the soul-devouring stones came from the crossing immortal domain, even if you don't tell us. Di Beichun went straight to the point. Shopkeeper Shun's face changed, and a fierce look flashed across his face. Why are you here? We don't mean any harm. You don't have to be so nervous. Bailey Hongzhuang stepped forward and said, Actually, we're here to find a way to enter the crossing immortal domain. Are you crazy? Shopkeeper Shun looked as if he had heard something unbelievable. He was stunned for a moment. Everyone knows what's going on in the crossing immortal domain. No one in the chaotic immortal domain is willing to go there. We're here to find our family. Bailey Hongzhuang told Shopkeeper Shun about their troubles. Of course, all of this was just a cover that they came up with. However, it was undeniable that they were worried about their family's future. The wariness in Shopkeeper Shun's eyes slowly disappeared. After understanding everything, his attitude was no longer as tough as before. So that's how it is. You guys are really affectionate and loyal. For many people, their own lives were the most important. Everything else could be cut off at will. In comparison, the two of them were truly loyal and loyal. Shopkeeper, we would like to ask for your help. How can we let them in? You're right. Our spirit-devouring stone did come from the crossing immortal domain, but the process was quite dangerous. Most importantly, this matter was handled by the Liu family. Only Liu Jin knows the details. After the shopkeeper's explanation, they finally understood that they had obtained the spirit-devouring stone by crossing the heavenly moat. This process was extremely dangerous and could only be done once a year. Every family in their town had to pay something for this trip, whether it was blood spirit stones, runes, magic treasures, or something else. In the end, the most powerful few would set off to cross the natural moat. Among them, the Liu family was a core member. Shopkeeper Shun had never been to the heavenly moat, so he was not very clear about this. "Thank you, shopkeeper." Di Bei Chun cupped his hands. This was a great help to them. Chapter 7104. Noticing Di Bei Chun's expression, the shopkeeper could not help but say, "Don't tell me you're planning to try it yourselves? That's definitely not possible." "Why?" "We've been in contact with the crossing immortal domain for many years. They know that there's a path with the least danger. The heavenly moat is filled with danger. Not to mention radiant sun realm cultivators. Even elementary immortal realm cultivators would have a 90% chance of survival. It's precisely because they know the path that they've been in contact with the crossing immortal domain until now. Some people have tried it before, but none of them survived." The shopkeeper's expression was serious. "Don't be stupid." Speaking of this, the shopkeeper could not help but laugh. "You're very stupid to want to enter the crossing immortal domain. But since it's to save someone, you have to protect your own lives first. Thank you for your advice, shopkeeper. We'll think of a plan before taking action. Now that the people in town have begun to accept you, if you can cure Lu Qiyu's illness, I believe Lu Jin will be willing to bring you along," the shopkeeper suggested. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were slightly heavy. Their previous judgment was not wrong. Lu Jin was the one who was very clear about this matter. Lu Jin is not an easy person to deal with. Look at him. He's not even interested in alchemy. You can see how stubborn he is. Even a vicious tiger will not eat its cubs. Lu Qiyu is his son. He won't sit by and watch his son die. Immortal Treasure Pavilion. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen lay on the bed and looked at the wooden plank above them. Their eyes were filled with thoughts. Lu Jin's temper is so strange. If we act on our own, he might be even more resistant. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly, "We can only cast a long line to catch a big fish. Lu Qiyu is already sick. They won't be able to bear it for long." Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. An idea suddenly appeared in her mind. "I thought a good idea. It should be able to shorten the waiting time. But Lu Qiyu will have to suffer a little." Di Beichan turned his head. "What idea?" "The reason why Lu Jin is able to remain calm is because Lu Qiyu's condition isn't too serious yet. If it becomes serious, then he definitely won't be able to sit still. So, as long as I think of a way to speed up his recovery." "You don't know much about him. Are you sure you can do it?" "Don't worry." Bailey Hongzhuang was full of confidence. "I'm almost certain that he was also poisoned. There are some herbs that have a catalytic effect." Di Beichun pecked the woman's mouth. "My wife is the best." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "Of course. The night is long. Let's not think about other people. Let's think about our own things." Di Beichun flipped over and got on. "The Liu family. Father, you've always said that Bailey Hongzhuang is unreliable. Look, Shen Xianglin was cured by her. It can be seen that her medical skills are outstanding. Why don't I give it a try too? Maybe my condition can be cured too." Lu Qiyu looked at Lu Jin expectantly. Ever since he found out about this matter, he could no longer suppress his inner thoughts. No one wanted to die. Even if he had accepted this result in despair, when this glimmer of hope appeared, his desire to live was incited. He hated that he couldn't immediately walk into the Immortal Treasure Pavilion. Chapter 7105. Lu Jin's expression did not change. His voice was still cold and resolute. So many people saw it. How could it be fake? Shopkeeper Shun and the others were very close to these two outsiders. This time, it just had to happen to Shun Xianglin. Maybe the whole thing is part of their scheme to lure us in. After hearing his father's analysis, Lu Qiyu gasped in amazement. "Father, you're too imaginative." Although Shopkeeper Shun was the first to know them, he wouldn't put Shun Xianglin in danger for them. Right? Didn't you hear what everyone said? Dr. Yang is helpless against this poison. These two people came from the outside world. It's not surprising that they have some powerful poison on them. Seeing that Lu Jin was not moved, Lu Qiyu could not help but shake his head. He thought that after this incident, Lu Jin's thoughts would change. He did not expect the situation to be the complete opposite. It was another night. Bailey Hongzhuang handed the packet of powder to Xiao Bai. You just need to put this in the Lu family's potted plant. Mistress, this kind of small matter can be done quickly. Don't worry. I naturally trust your abilities. However, this Lu Jin is not simple. You should be careful. Yes. Watching the backs of the two demon beasts leave, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the crescent moon in the sky. The cold moonlight shone down, bringing with it a hazy brilliance. This Lu Jin might be hiding his true colors. Di Beichen's voice gradually rang out. In the past 2 days, he had carefully thought over the shopkeeper's words. Since Heaven's Moat was a place that even elementary immortal cultivators had a hard time traversing, it was simply too difficult for a few Radiant Sun cultivators to traverse it. When he thought of Lu Jin's attitude towards the immortal pill, he faintly guessed that perhaps Lu Jin had already broken through to the elementary immortal stage. That was why he was so calm. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood what he meant. What you said is not impossible. If that's really the case, then he's hidden very deeply. If that's really the case, then an expert like him can do whatever he wants in the Radiant Sun realm. Why would he stay here? I don't know, but there must be a reason for him to stay here. We just don't know what it is. Will Xiao He and Xiao Bai be in danger? Let's go take a look. Di Beichun pulled Bailey Hongzhuang out of the courtyard and walked towards the Lu family. If Lu Jin was really a cultivator in the elementary immortal realm, they might be able to find out tonight. Xiao He and Xiao Bai immediately rolled into the Lu family's residence. After noticing that there was no movement, they quietly sprinkled the medicinal powder into the potted plant. This kind of thing is really too simple for us. After it was settled, Xiao He and Xiao Bai high-fived each other and happily left the Lu residence. However, as soon as they came out, the two little fellows also noticed Di Beichun and his companion. They couldn't help but be dumbfounded. Master, why are you here? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the calm Lu family and said, It seems that our guest was wrong. Lu Jin, aren't you going to drink more? A loud voice rang out from behind. Bailey Hongzhuang turned around and realized that the person who spoke was Su Shun, who had just broken through to the elementary immortal stage. Chapter 7106. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled helplessly. It seems that we didn't test him at the right time. Su Shun, I've already drunk a lot. Let's drink another day. Lu Jin obviously didn't want to continue drinking. He waved his hand and walked back to the Lu family. What a bummer. We were drinking and now you want to go back. You're really strange. Su Shan waved his hand disappointedly and said with disdain, You'll have to treat me next time. Okay. Lu Jin quickened his pace and quickly rushed in the direction of Bailey Hongzhuang. Maybe we've achieved our goal. Di Beichan raised his eyebrows. There was a hint of self-evident understanding between his brows. I didn't expect this town to be so full of hidden talents. All of this can be explained. Bailey Hongzhuang understood. She had always felt that Lu Jin's attitude was very strange. Now that she knew that Lu Jin was an expert in the elementary celestial stage, she understood. A poison that even an expert in the elementary celestial stage can't cure. It seems that this poison is really tricky. She didn't believe in curses, and she believed that Lu Jin wouldn't believe in such nonsense. However, Lu Qiyu was already in such a situation, but he still maintained such an attitude. It proved that he had already determined that this poison was impossible to cure. In this way, all of his attitude could be explained. After Lu Jin returned home, he looked around the courtyard. After finding that there was nothing unusual inside, his face became very gloomy. Since you're already here, why do you need to hide? Looking at the crescent moon in the sky, Lu Jin's face was indescribably cold. I didn't expect you to be so secretive. Di Beichun slowly walked out of the shadows. Looking at the handsome young man in front of him, the moonlight shone on him, plating him with a layer of faint brilliance. He was like an immortal in the moon, indescribably elegant. Young Master Di is really amazing. Your cultivation has reached this level at such a young age. It's my fault. A straightforward person does not resort to insinuations. Coming to my courtyard in the middle of the night is not the conduct of a gentleman. Lu Jin's expression darkened. What exactly do you want? I think you already know what's going on. Otherwise, you wouldn't have rushed back. Lu Jin sized up the fearless man in front of him, a trace of suspicion in his heart. Do you think you could defeat me? I only came here hoping that you could do me a favor. My original intention was not to stay here for long. As long as you are willing to help me, I will disappear from your sight as long as I achieve my goal. I will not interfere with your life. Why should I help you? What if we can cure Lu Qiyu? Lu Jin chuckled. What an arrogant tone. What makes you think you can help me? Of course, I know that you must have used many methods, but you should also be able to guess that I am confident in saying such words at this time. Hearing this, Lu Jin's expression changed. His gaze was constantly sizing up Di Beichen. He had to admit that if the other party was only a cultivator at the Glorious Sun stage, he would not even believe such shameless words. However, the other party was already at the elementary immortal stage at such a young age. His hidden strength was so strong that even he did not notice it before. It was clear that he had a certain level of ability. Chapter 7107. Lu Jin's feelings were extremely complicated. Di Beichen's cultivation was beyond his expectations. He had been keeping his distance earlier because he felt that the two of them were strange. However, it was obvious that the two of them had more trump cards than he had imagined. Di Beichen was the only one in front of him. Bailey Hongzhuang's strength was still a mystery. He could not be sure if she was also an expert in the elementary immortal realm. Di Beichen noticed Lu Jin's expression and knew that he was not really tempted. He just wanted to find out more about them. However, this conversation was going to happen sooner or later. He did not mind saying it first. We need to enter the crossing immortal domain. Lu Jin frowned, but did not speak immediately. The person we're looking for is in the crossing immortal domain, so we have to enter. As long as you help us enter, we'll help you cure Lu Qiyu. Di Beichen raised his eyebrows slightly. Lu Jin was the first person who did not immediately refute them. Even if you can cure Qiyu, he's just one person. Once you tell others about this, the entire town might cease to exist. Why do you think I'll agree? We can make an oath, Di Beichen said. Lu Jin was slightly startled. Swearing an oath was very useful for cultivators. They had already become immortals. The fact that the other party was willing to make an oath proved that his words were trustworthy. I need to think about it. Your son's illness can't wait for too long. We're willing to discuss it with you on an equal footing. We hope that this matter can be done quietly. However, this doesn't mean that I don't have other methods. Di Beichen glanced at Lu Jin indifferently. The latter immediately felt as if a knife was scraping his body. He felt cold all over. You have 3 days to think about it. In the next moment, Di Beichen's figure disappeared from the courtyard as if he had never appeared. That night, Lu Jin stood in the courtyard for a long time. He only returned to the house when the sky gradually brightened. On the third day, Xiao He paced back and forth in the house. It's already the last day, and Lu Jin still hasn't appeared. Could it be that he didn't agree? This old fellow won't take the opportunity to run away with his entire family, right? Why don't I keep an eye on them? Xiaobai said worriedly. Bailey Hongzhuang reached out and pulled the two little fellows onto the table. Lu Jin is an elementary immortal expert. Even if he doesn't agree, he shouldn't be so spineless. When night fell and Bailey Hongzhuang was about to close the door, a hand suddenly pressed against the door. She opened the door and found that Lu Jin was already standing outside. I'm here to give you an answer. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Please come in. Inside the room, Bailey Hongzhuang brought in 2 cups of tea. Thank you. Lu Jin took a sip of tea and went straight to the point. Apart from your conditions, I have another request. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang raised their eyebrows slightly and did not answer. As long as you agree to my request, I'll help you enter the crossing immortal domain. Tell me, I want to know who the person who attacked my Lu clan is. You should know better than anyone about this, right? We know nothing about your family. It won't be easy to find the culprit, Bailey Hongzhuang said calmly. Chapter 7108. I can try. Lu Jin's eyes lit up. But I can't guarantee that I'll be able to find the murderer. If this person isn't from this town, or there are other possibilities, you don't think that will help you find the murderer all over the world, do you? Bailey Hongzhuang's expression revealed a kind of indifferent alienation. They were only discussing a deal. She didn't want the other party to take a mile after taking an inch. Lu Jin nodded slightly. I understand, as long as you can tell me the situation of this poison and give me some clues. As for the rest, I'll take care of it myself. Deal. When Lu Qiyu saw his father and Bailey Hongzhuang talking and laughing as they walked over, he couldn't help but rub his eyes, wondering if he had lost his mind and was hallucinating. Stop rubbing, it's embarrassing, Lu Jin said disdainfully. Feeling this familiar tone, Lu Qiyu finally believed that he wasn't dreaming and immediately stood up excitedly. Father, did your head get squeezed by the door today? Lu Jin's face darkened. Haven't you always been hoping to get Miss Bailey to treat your illness? If you don't want to, then forget it. Hey, father, don't. Lu Qiyu hurried over. I want to see it. I want to see it. I definitely want to see it. Miss Bailey, can you help me see if my illness can be cured? Although Lu Qiyu's words were simple, it seemed like he didn't care about all this at all, but his slightly heavier than usual panting revealed his inner nervousness. This was already his last hope. If it still failed, then it would be completely hopeless. After Bailey Hongzhuang carefully took Lu Qiyu's pulse, she found that the situation was indeed unusual. Compared to Shun Xianglin's poison, this poison was undoubtedly much more complicated. Almost immediately, she was sure that the person who poisoned Lu Qiyu and Shin Xianglin were not the same person. If it was the same person, even if the hatred between the two people was different, the difference in the poison wouldn't be so big. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang fall into silence after taking his pulse, Lu Qiyu's heart sank bit by bit. Ever since this incident happened to their family, they had gone to visit many godly doctors, but in the end, they had all returned empty-handed. Miss Bailey, is there no cure for my illness? Lu Qiyu couldn't help but ask. He forced a smile and said, It's okay. Actually, I'm already mentally prepared. Lu Jin was also very nervous. He thought about it for 3 days before agreeing. He really didn't want to see his son fall like this. That was a pain he couldn't bear. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. After a long while, she said, If I'm not wrong, this should be a type of goo poison. The moment these words were spoken, Lu Qiyu and the other person could not help but be stunned. Goo poison? Not bad. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. I've dabbled in goo poison to a certain extent. Your poison is the most similar to goo poison. In that case, someone planted goo in our family. Lu Jin's expression became very ugly. Goo poison was much more difficult to treat than ordinary poison. Ordinary people were most unwilling to be contaminated with goo poison. He did not expect that it would appear in their bodies. I need some time to study it carefully. Don't be impatient. Chapter 7109. I still have some confidence. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. I will do my best to cure you. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's serious expression, Lu Qiyu's lips curled into a smile. Thank you. Bailey Hongzhuang took some of the poisoned blood and carefully understood Lu Qiyu's symptoms. Then she began to study it. She had dabbled in goo poison in the past and had a certain understanding of it when she followed Granny Hua. However, Granny Hua focused more on guiding her in other areas. Although she had mentioned goo poison, she was not as proficient in other areas. Fortunately, she still had some books that Granny Hua left for her in her chaos ring. Perhaps she could find some clues from them. Young Master D, is Miss Bailey really confident? Lu Jin looked in the direction that Bailey Hongzhuang left and asked. Di Baichen nodded slightly. If there is really no cure, she will not waste her time. Lu Jin was relieved. Bailey Hongzhuang did not give up. At least, it meant that they still had a glimmer of hope. Think about it carefully. Who could do such a thing? Di Baichen looked at Lu Jin. Using goo poison required some skills. There were not many people who were good at goo poison. If there was such a person among their friends, they would be able to lock onto the target. I will confirm it carefully. However, this news must not be told to anyone to avoid alerting the enemy. Lu Jin reminded, Don't worry. We still have to find a way to help you find the person who poisoned you. Ever since returning to Immortal Treasure Pavilion, Bailey Hongzhuang found a book about goo poison from the medical books that Granny Hua gave her. She quickly read through the contents. She did not like to raise goo poison usually. She only felt that it was very troublesome. However, when she thought about the people in the town, she really could not think of anyone who was good at it. This person must have never told anyone that he was good at goo poison. He has always been very secretive in order to use it as a trump card. Xiaohei was secretly speechless. I did not expect the people here to be so scary. They have so many tricks up their sleeves. It is really frightening. Indeed, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. I think there are only a few targets. As long as we can detoxify the poison, it won't be difficult to lure the snake out of its hole. Master, are you sure which type of goo poison it is? It should be the heart-devouring goo. The goo worms here are much more powerful than the ones we encountered before. The cultivators in the chaotic immortal realm have very pure origin energy. The goo worms fed with this kind of origin energy are extremely powerful. I need to think of a way to force them out of my body. Although there were related records in the books, this kind of thing couldn't be understood just by reading it. She had to start from the basics. Every type of goo worm had different characteristics, and after staying in a person's body for a long time, there would be some changes. She had to understand everything clearly before she could make a move. Otherwise, if something were to happen, it would be too early. I think that Lu Qiyu's condition has been all right recently. There shouldn't be any problems for the time being. There's still time. Xiaohei comforted. Bailey Hongzhuang was engrossed in reading the medical book. From time to time, she would write something down. Through this inspection, they could determine the true situation of the goo worms. Chapter 7110. In this environment where no one disturbed her, Bailey Hongzhuang's understanding of the goo poison continued to improve. In the beginning, there were only some vague directions, but gradually, she began to research how to force the goo out without affecting Lu Qiyu. However, this peace was suddenly broken one day. Miss Bailey, Qiyu is dying. Lu Jin ran to Immortal Treasure Pavilion in a panic. His usually cold face was now filled with anxiety. His eyes were bloodshot and filled with panic and pain. What's going on? Bailey Hongzhuang was stunned. According to her observation, Lu Qiyu's goo poison could last for at least a year. Although she had asked Xiaohei and Xiao Bai to put medicinal powder in their house, she had resolved the catalytic effect of the medicinal powder after they cooperated. Logically speaking, such a situation should not have happened. I don't know. It suddenly became like this. Let's go take a look. The three of them quickly rushed to the Lu family. Along the way, Lu Jin also talked about the recent situation. Previously, the situation of the people in our family before they died was very similar to Qiyu's situation. However, they took longer to act up than Qiyu. I don't understand why he acted up so early. You must find a way to save him first. As long as you can save him, I will do my best to help you complete your wish. Don't worry too much. I've already thought of a way. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were serious. During this period, she had a comprehensive understanding of Lu Qiyu's goo poison. Originally, she had planned to try to force the goo out in a few days. However, she did not expect such a situation to occur today. When they arrived, they found Lu Qiyu's body twitching. Blood was flowing out of his nose, and he looked to be in extreme pain. "Father, save me. Save me." Lu Qiyu screamed in pain. He lay on the bed and kicked the blanket with his feet. His expression was ferocious and terrifying. Seeing this situation, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately knew how terrible the situation was. The insect queen had already directed the child insects to take Lu Qiyu's life. If they did not stop it immediately, then Lu Qiyu would die without a doubt. She reached out and grabbed Lu Qiyu's arm. Through feeling his pulse, she found an unusual fluctuation near Lu Qiyu's heart and immediately understood. That was where the child insects were. "Young Master Lu, why don't you ask this?" Bailey Hongzhuang took out a sachet and placed it in front of Lu Qiyu's nose. This was the medicine she had prepared a few days ago. It could temporarily calm the child worms. The smell wasn't pleasant and was even a little pungent. Lu Qiyu couldn't help but frown. However, when he smelled the scent, he was surprised to find that the pain in his body was not as intense as before. He immediately snatched the sachet and sniffed it desperately. Take off his shirt. Bailey Hongzhuang instructed and took out the needle bag. Lu Jin had already unbuttoned Lu Qiyu's clothes. Numerous silver needles circled around Lu Qiyu's heart and pierced into the corresponding acupoints. The silver needles, which contained pure energy, trembled unceasingly, exuding a pure power. Chapter 7140. Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations. There was a problem with the goo poison. Unknowingly, Lu Qiyu had fallen into a deep sleep. Bailey Hongzhuang made a cut on his finger and took out a fresh animal organ. What are you going to do? Lu Jin looked at Bailey Hongzhuang doubtfully, his eyes full of confusion. Think of a way to lure this goo worm out. Bailey Hongzhuang said, I have already studied it. This goo worm's level is not low. If you want to kill it directly in your body, I am afraid Master Lu will not be able to save his own life. But this can lure the goo worm out? Lu Jin did not believe it. If it was so simple, then goo worms would not be so scary. Of course, that's not all. I added something to this animal's internal organs. It should be its favorite taste. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. Every kind of goo worm had its own favorite smell. Smell was the way to attract goo worms. I wanted to feel pain in Master Lu's body. Coupled with the temptation from the outside, there's a chance of success. Now, the queen worm's order is for it to devour this heart, but it may not know which heart it is. I see. Lu Jin suddenly understood, but he really didn't understand this aspect. But looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's solemn vow, he felt a bit more confident. Please, you have to save him. At the same time, in another place, a woman looked at the queen worm in front of her with a complicated expression. What's wrong? Is there a problem? Just now, it was about to succeed. But for some reason, the child worm seemed to have stopped for a moment, as if it had fallen into a deep sleep. How is this possible? This has never happened before. I don't know either. Could it be that they have found a way to deal with it? Impossible. My goo poison has never made a mistake. In this place, no one can compare to me. This Bailey Hongzhuang who recently came is a little strange. I heard that she had plans to treat Lu Qiyu before, but Lu Jin rejected her. Maybe this old guy has thought it through recently. That girl's alchemy skills are not bad, but alchemy is different from goo poison. Even if she cured Shan Xianglin, she definitely can't cure Lu Qiyu. The woman's lips curled up slightly. Look, the child worm is reacting again. That's good. The man sighed in relief and smiled proudly. It's time to destroy the Lu family. Once Lu Qiyu is dead, it will be Lu Jin's turn. Not long after, a satisfied smile appeared on the woman's face. Lu Qiyu is dead. Haha, that's great. A smile appeared on the man's face. Lu Jin must be heartbroken now. You should be more careful these days. Don't reveal any flaws. Lu Jin's strength is not simple. Don't worry. He won't think of it. The man was full of confidence. Lu family, inside the house. After Bailey Hongzhuang removed the silver needles from Lu Qiyu's body one by one, she wiped the sweat off her forehead and sighed in relief. This is the goo worm. Lu Jin looked at the glass cup in his hand. There was a very small black worm in it. Previously, he saw this worm gradually crawl out of Lu Qiyu's finger. In the end, it completely ate the animal's internal organs. Its speed shocked him. End of chapter. Chapter 7147. All right, I promise you. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. That's right. This is the child worm of the goo worm. The mother worm is in the hands of the person who poisoned you. This child worm has been in Sir Lu's body for a long time. The other party must be trying to create a curse. That's why they dragged it out for so long. That means the rest of our family died in the hands of this worm? Lu Jin's expression turned extremely ugly. He had thought of many ways to deal with this situation after it had happened. He naturally did not believe what others said about curses, but as he could not find the cause, he vaguely felt that this might be the case. At this moment, he finally understood the truth. That's right. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Lu Jin and said, This person has a deep grudge with you, and using such a method, he might be more familiar with you. If it was an ordinary grudge, the other party could have just poisoned them to death, but they had to spend so much effort. Their motive was undoubtedly to prevent this matter from implicating them. Lu Jin's eyes dimmed. A gloomy look appeared on his face. Using this child worm, can you find a mother worm? If you can help me find the other party, I will do my best to help you. Lu Jin's expression was serious. His eyes shone with hatred. His entire family had died in the hands of this goo worm. The other party's intention was to exterminate his entire family. If he did not take revenge, how could he face his family in the underworld? You want to enter crossing immortal domain? I will help you. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her brows. As expected, Lu Jin had a way. All right, I promise you. Lu Jin heaved a sigh of relief. Although he already had a few suspects, the other party had concealed this matter so well, it would not be easy to find them. He wanted to find the real culprit. If he alerted the other party, it would be more troublesome. Di Beichen smiled at Bailey Hongzhuang. Are you confident? There is a connection between the mother insect and the child insect. However, if the other party is a careful person, she may directly erase all of this. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly, there's another possibility. This kind of thing has happened in your family several times. Perhaps the other party is very arrogant. It takes a lot of effort to cultivate this kind of goo worm. If O'Shur can take it back, he should be willing to do so. Lu Jin was confused. Then what should we do now? Should we follow this insect back? Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head slightly. What we need to do now is wait. Wait, I think she will recall the child worms. Otherwise, the child worms will be dead by now. A confident smile appeared on her exquisite face. Instantly, her radiance shot out in all directions. Even in the middle of the night, her eyes were still bright and dazzling. Lu Jin didn't say anything, but he believed in the ability of the young woman in front of him. Thank you, Mrs. D. Hearing this different form of address, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her brows and looked at Di Beichen. Di Beichen smiled faintly. I told him that we are already married. If he keeps calling you miss, it will be easy for others to take advantage of him. Bailey Hongzhuang laughed lightly. Her eyes were full of smiles. She didn't hear this form of address often. Don't tell anyone that we are here. Bailey Hongzhuang reminded Lu Jin. Otherwise, the other party might be on guard. End of chapter. Chapter 7148. Revenge for the extermination of his family. I understand. Lu Jin nodded deeply. The night had enveloped him in a ball of darkness, as if he had sunk into boundless darkness. Only when he raised his head to look at the unconscious Lu Qiu, a trace of hope flashed in his eyes, illuminating his desolate heart. When will Qiu wake up? Once the worm comes out, will he be fine? Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at the pale man on the bed and shook her head. He will wake up tomorrow. The worm has been in his body for a long time. His body is lacking a lot. Now that it suddenly came out, his condition will be even worse. He will need to recuperate for a period of time before he will gradually recover. Lu Jin heaved a sigh of relief. Even if he had to spend a little more time, it was fine. As long as he was still alive, it was fine. Make more supplements for him. He will recover faster. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. I can write a list for you. Thank you very much. Taking advantage of the dark night, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen brought Lu Qiu to Immortal Treasure Pavilion. However, Lu Jin stayed at home and stared at the worm. They decided not to spread the news that Lu Qiu was still alive. This way, they would be able to find the culprit faster. The next day, when Lu Qiu woke up, he felt that his body was extremely weak and he was unable to sit up. What happened to me? Lu Qiu was a little confused. This was not his house at all. Di Beichen walked over. You are awake. Young Master Di? Lu Qiu looked at the house and then looked at Di Beichen. Only then did he remember what happened yesterday. I am still alive? Don't worry. You are very lucky. You won't die. Bailey Hongzhuang walked in. Lu Qiu was overjoyed. Really? I won't die. The goo poison has been cured. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and passed a bowl of medicinal porridge over. You are very weak now. Rest more. Where's my father? I was clearly at home earlier. How did I wake up here? Your father is investigating the real culprit. Lu Qiu's expression changed, and he immediately wanted to get out of bed. I want to go too. Which bastard did this to us? Di Beichen stopped him with one hand and said, the news that you are still alive is a secret. If you go out, You will alert the enemy. Leave this matter to us. Lu Qiyu was stunned for a moment, but he quickly understood the whole thing. However, there was still a trace of unwillingness between his brows. If I find him, I'll make sure he dies a horrible death. In the past, he had always thought that their family's feng shui was not good, or that it was bad luck brought about by what his father and the others had done. He did not expect that it was all man-made. This kind of anger almost burned his entire heart. This was simply a vengeance for the extermination of a sect. At night, Bailey Hongzhuang left Xiao He and Xiao Bai behind to take care of Lu Qiyu before they went to the Lu family. As soon as they entered the house, they saw Lu Jin guarding the insect. It was as if he had not slept a wink the entire night. How is it? Lu Jin looked up and saw the two of them. He shook his head. There is no movement yet. Be patient. The other party knows that your strength is not ordinary. They will not take it back so quickly. Bailey Hongzhuang sat down at the side. This kind of situation was not strange at all. It's fine. Let's wait. Lu Jin's expression was calm, but the trace of scarlet hatred in his eyes was shocking to the eye. Now that the threat had been removed, it was no big deal to spend a little more time. End of chapter. Chapter 71:49. For 3 days, the child worm did not move. It stayed in the box quietly, as if it was asleep. This goo worm isn't dead, right? Lu Jin looked at the motionless goo worm with worry in his eyes. If the goo worm was dead, it would be difficult to find the culprit. No. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head with a faint smile. It ate so many things earlier. Its body is filled with energy. It is just resting now. Jiangzhan invited me to his place for dinner tonight. He might be testing me. Lu Jin raised his head. His solemn expression was complicated. Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Jin raised their eyebrows. Lu Qiyu's matter had not spread out yet. Others naturally did not know about it. The only person who knew what happened was the person who poisoned the goo worm. If someone mentioned it tonight, it would be much easier to find the culprit. Go and take a look. You should have some results. Bailey Hongzhuang said. Okay. Lu Jin looked at the sky. I should set off soon. The others have probably arrived already. Di Beichen looked at the goo worm in front of him, saying, You waited until now to see if this goo worm will move? Lu Jin nodded. That's right. Go, we will watch over it. However, just as Lu Jin was about to set off, they suddenly discovered that the goo worm moved. Noticing this, everyone's expression changed. Lu Jin hurriedly followed the goo insect. When he realized that the goo insect was heading towards Jiangzhan's residence, his expression turned ugly. Could it be? The person who poisoned it is Jiangzhan? Is he the only one there tonight? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Lu Jin shook his head. Su Shun and Yang Tianzhao will be there too. Yang Tianzhao? Di Beichen was puzzled. Dr. Yang? That's right. It seems that you are very close. Actually, it is always the four of us going to do Immortal Domain every time. Lu Jin didn't intend to hide it. Since he had decided to help Di Beichen and Wang Zhong enter, they would find out about this sooner or later. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other, and their expressions became very strange. If that's the case, then the person who poisoned him might be one of the four. You go first. Leave the task of following the child insects to us. Be careful and don't leak any information. Understand. After Lu Jin left, Bailey Hongzhuang and Jiangzhan followed the insect. The insect's speed was also very fast. It didn't take them long to reach Jiangzhan's residence. Under the cover of the night, the two of them were dressed in black, so they were not eye-catching. However, it was not easy to keep an eye on this insect. One could only lock onto it through its aura. Otherwise, one would not be able to see it at night. Lu Jin, you are finally here. Jiangzhan saw Lu Jin and showed a happy smile. Why isn't Qiyu here? He went to the forest a few days ago and hasn't returned yet. I don't know where he went to play. Lu Jin waved his hand, his smile showing some helplessness. He is young. It is normal for him to go out and explore. You have to understand him. Jiangzhan put his hand on Lu Jin's shoulder. Su Shun and Tianzhao are already here. Let's go in and have a drink. After Lu Jin entered, he realized that Su Shan's family was here. It was quite lively. Chapter 71:50. Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi, translations Lu Jin. Hearing that Lu Qiyu wasn't at home, so you couldn't help but ask, did he go out because he was traumatized? How dare you spout nonsense in front of your elders? Madame Su reprimanded. You were jealous of him in front of so many people. Do you think you're proud? Mother, I'm not, Su Shin smiled. Young people are hot-blooded. It's normal for them to be jealous. Why do you have to take it to heart? Back in the day, we were like that too. Su Shun looked at Lu Jin. Am I right? That's right. Young people are hot-blooded after all. It's okay to quarrel. Don't take it to heart. Madame Su said with some pity. Qiyu is also a cultivation genius. If it weren't for this curse, his strength would have improved by now. Yang Tianzhao couldn't help but ask, has there been any progress in Qiyu's condition recently? Lu Jin shook his head. No. Madame Zhang also served the food and wine at this moment. After hearing this topic, she said, I believe that Qiyu is blessed by the heavens. He will be fine. Bailey Hongzhuang and Su Shin stayed on the roof. When they noticed that there were so many people inside, a trace of helplessness appeared on their faces. The child worms were extremely small, and they couldn't directly follow them in. Once they made it clear, the other party could directly kill the child worms. In this way, they could only be sure that the person who poisoned them was one of the three families, but they couldn't be sure who did it. I'm afraid these guys don't see eye to eye. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head slightly. It was troublesome to make friends with these kinds of people. I wonder if Lu Jin will be able to find out the result? Di Beichan frowned slightly. Now that he had locked onto these three families, the target was much smaller, but he still couldn't be sure who it was. I'm afraid it's a little difficult. These guys are probably gloating about Lu Qiyu's illness. Even if they're testing him, I'm afraid they'll say the same thing. Di Beichan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, who was beside him, and said, Madam Di, do you already have a way? Young Master Di, you're right. Let's go back. We'll know the results soon. Bailey Hongzhuang pulled Di Beichan back with her. She had no interest in staying on the roof. Lu Jin only came out of Jiang Zhen's house in the middle of the night. Just a moment ago, he was still drunk, but in an instant, he regained his senses. His eyes were cold, without a trace of warmth. How is it? Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichan sat on a tree branch and looked down at Lu Jin. Lu Jin raised his head. They're very tight-lipped, so I can't be sure. The other party purposely chose this time when everyone was gathered, so they probably didn't want to be suspected. I don't think Jiang Zhen is responsible for this. Otherwise, it would be too deliberate. Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Jin nodded slightly. They didn't answer immediately and listened to Lu Jin's analysis. Yang Tianzhao doesn't look like it either. I'm afraid his medical skills aren't at this level yet. He's best at ordinary poisons, not goo poison. Maybe he's been hiding it all along? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Maybe it's a kind of intuition. Lu Jin still insisted on his judgment. I think it's most likely Su Shun's family. Why? You said before that the goo poison in Qiyu's body should only act up after some time. It's strange that it suddenly acted up this time. I think this situation might be related to Su Shun's breakthrough to the elementary immortal stage. End of chapter. Chapter 71-51. It's because he has made a breakthrough that he doesn't have as many concerns as before. Lu Jin's eyes darkened. In fact, he had always known that Su Shun had some complaints about him, but he had been deliberately suppressing them because of the gap in strength between them. He didn't take it to heart. In his opinion, Su Shun was a guy who liked to act on impulse. Even if he was dissatisfied in his heart, it was often easy to show on his face. He really found it hard to believe that Su Shun was the one who did such a thing. If that was really the case, then Su Shun's concealment skills were really too superb. Most importantly, among the three families, he felt that Su Shun was the most likely one. Let's go to his house and see. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a confident smile as she walked towards Su Shun's house. Mrs. D. Lu Jin was a little surprised, but he still followed her. When Su Shun opened the door and saw Di Beichan and the others, his expression became very strange for a moment, but soon returned to normal. Lu Jin, why are you with young Master D and Miss Bailey? Is there something wrong? It's Mrs. D, Di Beichan said slowly. Su Shun was slightly stunned. After he reacted, he said a little embarrassedly, "So it's Mrs. D. Forgive me for not recognizing you. You should know why we are here today, right?" Bailey Hongzhuang pushed the door open with a faint smile and walked in. Su Shun hurriedly caught up with her, his face full of confusion. "Mrs. D, I really don't understand what you mean. It doesn't matter if you don't know now. When we see your wife, everything will be clear." As soon as these words came out, Su Shun's expression suddenly changed. A touch of panic quietly flashed across his face, and then he looked at Lu Jin in confusion. "Lu Jin, what do you mean? In any case, we've known each other for so many years. You didn't even give me a heads up before bringing two outsiders to my place. Isn't that too much?" Lu Jin's expression was cold. "We are here to confirm something. If we are wrong, we will apologize to you later." Not long after, Mrs. Su came out. Looking at the three people in front of her, she was indifferent. "What brings you here so late at night? We didn't realize that Madame Su was such a character at first. We were really blind." Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. The woman in front of her had an ordinary appearance and was not outstanding at all. Her expression revealed some gentleness. Just by looking at the surface, no one would be able to tell that this gentle and virtuous woman would actually use such vicious means. Madame Su's face was filled with confusion. "Madame D, this is the first time we've met. I really don't understand what you mean. Since I'm so straightforward, it means that I already have evidence. Why do you have to be so secretive?" Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes had a hint of coldness. "You poisoned him, didn't you?" Although it was a question, Bailey Hongzhuang used an affirmative tone. "Gu poison? Madame D thinks too highly of me." Lu Jin couldn't help but frown when he saw this. The situation in front of him was not beyond his expectation. As long as there was no definite evidence, the other party would never admit it. It's not easy for Madame Su to raise gu worms, so she wants to take back the child worm. But this has already left the biggest clue. Chapter 7152. Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations Irrefutable Evidence. Hearing this, Madame Su's face changed slightly. She looked at Bailey Hongzhuang suspiciously, but her face remained calm. "I don't understand what you're talking about. Why should I listen to you talk about these baseless fallacies in the middle of the night?" Su Shan also glanced at Madame Su quietly. After seeing that the latter was not flustered, he was relieved. It was not the first time that they had done this kind of thing, and there had never been any problems. He believed that this time, it was impossible for them to be caught. "It seems that Madame Su won't admit it if you don't show the evidence." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly, like a flash in the pan, elegant and otherworldly. "I put the fluorite powder in that gu worm." "Fluorite powder?" The three of them were a little confused. They had never heard of it before. "You may not know much about the fluorite powder, but when the fluorite powder touches the thing in my hand, it will emit a little light. Isn't it very interesting?" Bailey Hongzhuang held a white porcelain bottle in her hand, and Di Beichen had taken the clear water from one side at this moment. After mixing the white liquid in the white porcelain bottle with the clear water, Di Beichen's yuanli surged in his body, and the clear water instantly evaporated into mist, diffusing in the whole room. Su Shun and Lu Jin looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in surprise and doubt. This woman had been too calm from the moment she appeared. They had never heard of this so-called method, and even felt that this woman might just be scaring them. Trying to force them to admit it in such a way was too naive. "I don't know what nonsense you're talking about. There's no light at all here." Madame Su's face was cold. She had already put the child worm into the box and was not afraid of what he said at all. It was impossible to find the child worm. "Put out the light." Lu Jin immediately blew out the candle. However, just after the room was dark, the little light on the ground became very obvious and even clearly pointed out a way. Su Shan understood almost in an instant. Previously, Zichong had clearly gone to Jiang Zhen's house. If it wasn't for the two of them, it would be impossible to leave traces here. After seeing this scene, Su Shun and the other man were also dumbfounded. They didn't expect that everything Bailey Hongzhuang said was actually true. "Madame Su, what do you have to say now?" In the darkness of the night, the woman's eyes were as bright as the stars, exuding a lively luster. "You're framing me." Su Shun reacted immediately. He stared at Bailey Hongzhuang with a burning gaze. His expression was gloomy and fierce. There is no enmity between us. Why are you slandering us like this? He turned to look at Lu Jin and said, Lu Jin, we've known each other for many years. You can't fall for their tricks. Looking at Su Shun's flawless acting skills, Bailey Hongzhuang secretly admired him. This guy is really good at acting. If it weren't for this, their family wouldn't have caused the Lu family to be in such a state without being discovered. Recalling that Su Shun had pulled Lu Jin to drink and chat merrily a few days ago, it was really ironic. Lu Jin had been watching this scene coldly. After confirming that all this was true, his eyes were terrifyingly cold. Su Shun, at this point, why do you still need to act? He suddenly raised his head, and his eyes were as cold as a sharp blade. End of this chapter. Chapter 7153. Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations. Who said I was dead? In the face of Lu Jin, whose eyes were as sharp as ice blades, the panic on Su Shun's face gradually collapsed. A cold smile slowly climbed up the corners of his mouth. At this moment, all the amiable and approachable smiles turned into evilness and disdain. I thought you would die without knowing why, but I didn't expect you to see through all this at the last moment. But so what? You're the only one left in the whole Lu family. Isn't it a little pitiful to find out the truth through your son's death? Ah, arrogant and indifferent laughter spread in the small house. Against the extremely ferocious face, people felt chills in their hearts. Bailey Hongzhuang, indeed Beichun, stood quietly aside. They promised to help Lu Jin find out the real murderer. They didn't need to get involved in this feud. After hearing such a big noise, Su Yu also came out of the house. After hearing all this, he was also a little surprised, but soon turned into indifference. Who said I was dead? A hoarse voice sounded, and Lu Qiyu slowly walked into the house. Looking at the familiar face in front of them, Su Shun and his family were a little stunned. It was obvious that Lu Qiyu couldn't be alive, but he appeared in front of them alive. How can you still be alive? Lady Su was shocked. Her goo-venomous insects had never disappointed her. This time, it had been completed, and it was impossible for it to fail. Which, do you think you can kill me so easily? Lu Qiyu's face was cold, and 2 clusters of fire were burning in his eyes. The anger in him almost burned out his reason. You despicable and shameless guys. You look sanctimonious, but you are so insidious behind my back. After a short surprise, Su Shun and his family quickly turned their eyes to Bailey Hongzhuang. Except for her, it should be no one else. You're also good at goo poison? Mrs. Su's black eyes were full of disbelief. She knew very well that there were very few people who were good at goo poison, and it was impossible for anyone in this town to know it. Even though everyone knew that Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills were outstanding, she had never taken it to heart. Because goo poison itself was another branch. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills were good, she could only be helpless in this regard. She never thought that she would actually miscalculate. Are you the only one who knows how to do that? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and asked. Madame Su's face darkened. This is between us. It has nothing to do with you. Why are you getting involved? That's between me and Lu Jin. You usually think highly of yourself. I thought you wouldn't ask for help. I didn't expect that your arrogance was just an act. Su Shun sneered, his eyes full of disdain. Lu Jin's face was steely. There's no point in saying more. Today, I will avenge my family. A powerful force broke out from Lu Jin's body. At this moment, he didn't hide his strength as usual. The strength of the elementary, celestial stage was undoubtedly revealed. Feeling this aura, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Sure enough, Lu Jin had broken through to the elementary, celestial stage for some time. His aura was stronger than Su Shun's. Su Shun was not to be outdone. Lu Jin, you used to rely on your strength to make decisions for us. Now that I have broken through to the elementary celestial stage, do you think you can still do whatever you want? End of this chapter. Chapter 7154. Mobile reading. The two of them collided with each other as soon as they finished speaking. Vigorous elemental energy gushed out in torrents. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest immediately rushed out of the house. The room was unable to withstand the power of the battle between two elementary immortal experts. On the other side, Su Yu and Lu Qiyu were also enemies. Their eyes blazed with hatred when they met. First, they fought over a beauty, and now it involved the enmity of their clans. The two of them did not show any mercy when they fought. Madame Su looked around, and her gaze finally fell on Di Beichun. She didn't do anything for the time being. Boom, boom. Terrifying energy ripples spread out, and the Su family's house was instantly razed to the ground. Such a huge commotion immediately woke up the other people in the town. They ran out of their houses one after another. When they saw what had happened, they were also at a loss. Why are Lu Jin and Su Shen fighting? Didn't they drink together before? My goodness, when did Lu Jin break through to the elementary celestial stage? From the looks of it, they seem to have a deep grudge against each other. Everyone looked at the two people who were fighting fiercely in bewilderment. They clearly wanted to take each other's lives. Young Master Di, you are here too. Do you know what happened? Shopkeeper Shen noticed that Di Beichun and Li Wuyo were already here, so he couldn't help but ask. Di Beichun smirked and turned to look at his side. You'll have to ask my wife about this. She knows the situation best. Madam, everyone was slightly taken aback. They looked back and forth between the two for a moment before they understood. I see. Mrs. D, can you tell us what's going on? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichun helplessly. This guy had been scheming all along. The so-called curse of the Liu family is actually Madame Su's poison. Her explanation was very simple. Everyone immediately understood after hearing this, and their eyes were filled with shock. My God, the curse of the Liu family was actually caused by Su Shen? No wonder Lu Jin is so angry. I didn't expect that Su Shen's family, who usually looks so ordinary, had a conspiracy. It's really scary. Everyone couldn't help but shake off the goosebumps on their bodies. The feeling of being stabbed in the back was still very scary. Fortunately, they usually did not offend Su Shen. Otherwise, their situation would probably be similar to the Liu family. Originally, there were several people in the family, but now, only the two of them were left. It was really pitiful. Now that Su Shen's family has been exposed, they are even more fearless. This world had always been about strength. As long as one had strength, everything else was nothing. I didn't expect the truth to be like this. I really feel bad for Qiyu. Shen Suxing's face also became very ugly. His relationship with Lu Qiyu was not very close before, but since Lu Qiyu agreed to help him last time, the relationship between the two of them had become much closer. He had always hoped that the curse of the Liu family could be broken as soon as possible, but he didn't expect the real reason to be like this. Young Master D, can Qiyu and the others win? Shen Suxing asked worriedly. It was obvious that he was thinking about whether he should rush up as well. Di Beichun looked at the two people fighting above and said, according to my observation, Lu Jin's strength is slightly stronger than Su Shen's. It should be no problem. This book came from Chapter 7155. Mobile reading, Patriarch Lu, if you need our help, just say the word. Di Beichun said with a faint smile. Then, he held Bailey Hongzhuang's hand and jumped down from the tree. However, we won't help for free. Hearing this, Lu Jin looked at the two people below and a strange look flashed across his eyes. The other party's words were obviously enough to give him something to rely on. As long as Di Beichun joined in, Su Shen would definitely lose. On the other side, Su Shen's face also became very ugly. He didn't know when the relationship between Di Beichun and the others had become so good. Most importantly, Di Beichun dared to say such words at this time, which was enough to prove that his strength was also not ordinary. Otherwise, a Radiant Sun Stage cultivator wouldn't even be qualified to participate in their battle. Shall we go back? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Otherwise, Di Beichun smiled faintly. Lu Jin can handle it. When we wake up tomorrow, everything will be settled. We just have to wait for the time to set off. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. She also felt that Su Shen was no match for Lu Jin. The next day, When Bailey Hongzhuang came out of the house, they found that the atmosphere in the small town was indescribably complicated. The expressions of the people on the street were somewhat emotional, as if they were still immersed in disbelief. Di Baichen noticed that Su Shan's house had been razed to the ground, while Lu Jin's house on the other side was still intact. He already knew the result. Presumably, after yesterday's battle, the Su family had already been removed from this small town. Mr. D, Mrs. D, good morning. Lu Qiyu walked over with a smile, obviously in a very good mood. Did you win last night? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Lu Qiyu nodded his head and said proudly, of course, in the past, Su Yu wasn't my opponent at all. If it wasn't for this goo poison, how could he have defeated me last time? This time, I finally got my revenge. I have to thank all of you. You're welcome. We're just helping each other. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. My father asked me to buy some healing medicine. That old fellow Su Shan couldn't beat my father yesterday and actually self-destructed in the end. Fortunately, my father dodged, but he still suffered some injuries. Bailey Hongzhuang was a little surprised. Is it serious? Do you need me to take a look? No need. Lu Qiyu waved his hand. It's not serious. I'll be fine after resting for a while. That's good. In the following days, Bailey Hongzhuang found that the people in the town were getting closer to them. It felt like they had replaced the Su family's existence. Because they had helped the Lu family find the source of the curse, everyone had a common enemy. Under such circumstances, the two of them were able to live more freely here. Without those rejections, life in this small town was indeed very leisurely. Lu Jin and the others went to the crossing Immortal Domain once a year. There were still 3 months before their next trip. Coincidentally, Lu Jin and Lu Jin both needed to recuperate. This trip was very dangerous. Even if they were in their best condition, it was inevitable that they would lose their lives, let alone now that they were injured. After 3 months, the two of them would be almost fully recovered, and they would be able to set off for the crossing Immortal Domain. During this time, Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Jin did not slack off. They cultivated with all their might, hoping for more protection. Therefore, the two of them directly announced that they were going into seclusion and went to the Holy Spirit Tree in the mystic realm to cultivate. This book came from Chapter 7156, Mobile Reading Immortal Domain. My lord, we found the cause of Qing Ji's death. The man half knelt in front of a green-robed man, his expression reserved and respectful. The man raised his eyebrows and asked in a hoarse voice, "What's going on?" According to our investigation, Qing Ji was just unlucky. She offended 2 cultivators from the chaotic immortal realm who had just broken through to the elementary immortal stage and died in their hands. Even though there were people in the immortal domain who wanted to harm Qing Ji died before they even arrived. In that case, it has nothing to do with these fellows from the immortal region. Yes. Have you checked the background of those 2 people? Could they be in contact with the people from the immortal region, but you were deceived? Qing Devil's eyes narrowed slightly. It was extremely difficult for a cultivator at the elementary celestial stage to appear in the chaos celestial realm. 1 person was already very rare, let alone 2 people. My lord, we also suspected that there was someone behind them, so we investigated the matter very clearly. In the end, we confirmed that they were cultivators without any background and had no contact with the immortal region. However, they have already left their original city. I reckon that they should have come to the immortal domain. Oh, Qing Devil smiled. They came to the immortal realm? Since they've delivered themselves to our doorstep, we'll make sure they don't leave. Our men are already looking for their whereabouts. What are their names? Di Baichen. Di Baichen? The light in Qing Mo's eyes suddenly froze. He suddenly stood up, his fierce eyes staring straight at the man in front of him. Suddenly being stared at by such a gaze, the man couldn't help but shiver. He nodded and said, "That person is called Di Baichen. Is there a problem?" Qing Devil narrowed his eyes. Is the other one called Bailey Hongzhuang? This time, the man couldn't help but be stunned. How did you know, my lord? Qing Devil paused for a while and suddenly laughed crazily. What a waste of effort. The man looked at Qing Devil, whose personality had changed greatly, and couldn't help but feel flustered. Ever since Qing Devil came back from the ancient battlefield, her personality had become even stranger. Although he didn't understand why she suddenly became like this, he didn't dare to say anything for fear that he would be implicated. "We must find these two people," Qing Devil immediately ordered. "Once you find them, report to me immediately. Don't alert them." "Yes." After the man left, Qing Devil's eyes darkened again. "Back then, I let you slip away from the ancient battlefield, but I won't let you get away this time." 3 months passed in the blink of an eye. Bailey Hongzhuang and Yi Zichen had already come out of the secret territory and returned to the Immortal Treasure Pavilion. As soon as the door was opened, many people ran over. "Young Master D, you've been in seclusion for so long. It's not easy for us to buy something." Everyone sighed. It was inconvenient when there was no Immortal Treasure Pavilion, but they had gotten used to it. Since they had the Immortal Treasure Pavilion, they felt even more uncomfortable when it was suddenly gone. Looking at the friendly crowd, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help smiling. These people were very difficult to get along with when they didn't accept her, but after getting to know them, she found they were quite nice. Soon, Lu Jin came to the Immortal Treasure Pavilion. "How's your injury?" Di Baichen asked. Lu Jin moved his arm and said with a smile, "I've completely recovered. It won't affect me at all." Chapter 7157. "That's good." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "When do you plan to leave?" "Before we depart, I have to introduce you to Jiang Zhen and the others. Every time we go there, we go together. The heavenly moat is filled with danger. Just us alone is not enough." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Jin nodded slightly. They understood in their hearts. Jiang Zhen, Su Shun, Yang Tianzhao, and Lu Jin must have been working together in the past. That was why the four of them had a close relationship. This time, Su Shun was naturally unable to go, but the others would still go. "Did you tell them that we're going?" Di Baichun asked slowly. "They might not accept it. Even though everyone had already accepted them as part of the town, it would still be difficult for others to agree to participate in such an important matter. Most importantly, according to their judgment, the person who poisoned Shen Xianglin was most likely Yang Tianzhao. Shen Xianglin had not offended Yang Tianzhao before, nor had he done anything out of line. Therefore, it was very likely that the reason why he was treated this way was related to them. Lu Jin also understood what the two of them meant and said, "I've already mentioned it to them once, but they weren't very willing to accept it, especially Dr. Yang. So, when we go over later, what they say might not be very nice. I hope you don't take it to heart." "We understand." Bailey Hongzhuang expressed her understanding. Under such circumstances, no one would be willing to accept two strangers. "I will convince them. I will definitely do what I promised you," Lu Jin emphasized. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Jin appeared at Jiang Zhen's house, Jiang Zhen and Yang Tianzhao's expressions were a little strange. They only looked at the two indifferently and didn't say anything. Lu Jin walked in with familiarity. "Why are you guys unhappy? Su Shin can't join us this time. With him around, we'll be safer." "I object." Yang Tianzhao made his attitude clear with a cold face. "Lu Jin, I know you're doing this because the two of them help you find the real culprit. I can understand that you want to repay the favor, but don't you think it's too risky to involve them in this kind of thing? They are trustworthy people. I hope you could trust me. I won't let everyone take the risk." Lu Jin's expression was serious. Back then, he had also had his suspicions. Even though Bailey Hongzhuang had saved Qiyu, he had never been completely at ease. It was just that the things they did later gave him a sense of security. If the other party wanted to do something, there was no need for them to waste so much effort. Even if the other party poisoned them, there was nothing they could do. Seeing that Lu Jin was so certain, Jiang Zhen's attitude softened. "Are you sure?" "I guarantee it with my life." Hearing this, Jiang Zhen sighed. "All right, since you've already said so, I'll believe you." "Believe him for what?" Yang Tianzhao sneered. "Don't you know that their goal is not to stay in this town, but to enter the crossing immortal domain? Don't you know how risky this is? If anything happens, no one will be able to bear the responsibility." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze hardened. Their judgment was right. Yang Tianzhao already knew everything. Chapter 7158. How did you know? Lu Jin suddenly asked. He hadn't told anyone about this yet, so Yang Tianzhao shouldn't have known about it. There's no such thing as an impenetrable wall in this world. Since you've made such a plan, you should have realized that it's very likely that all of this will be known by others. If I'm not wrong, you heard about it from Duan Shun, right? Di Beichen's voice was mild, and his starry eyes shone with a wise luster. After Shun Xianglin was poisoned, they had thought about it carefully and felt that the biggest reason for the whole thing should be this. Now that Yang Tianzhao had taken the initiative to talk about all this, everything was even more certain. Yang Tianzhao looked at Di Beichen in astonishment. Then his face returned to its usual cold expression. That's right. I was the one who poisoned Shen Xianglin. Why did you poison Shen Xianglin and not us? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. Yang Tianzhao should want to deal with them, but he had to take such a complicated route to deal with Shen Xianglin. It was really troublesome. I want to test your abilities. Yang Tianzhao's expression was calm. Naturally, he wanted to directly deal with Bailey Hongzhuang and Gurun. This way, there wouldn't be so much trouble. However, he also understood that the person who could concoct the immortal establishment pill was definitely an expert, so he did not rashly try. Shen Xianglin had proven that his judgment was not wrong. Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills were definitely above his. Lu Jin finally understood that Yang Tianzhao had never mentioned this matter to him. Tianzhao, just trust me this time. Jiang Zhen, who was listening from the side, was confused. He didn't quite understand what was going on until he heard everything. Only then did he understand what was going on. It turned out that there were so many things that happened before this, and he actually didn't know about it. Come to think of it, Yang Tianzhao and Di Beichen had become enemies. If it weren't for the fact that the two of them were stronger, Yang Tianzhao would have already dealt with them. If you want to make a move on me, then don't wait. Yang Tianzhao looked coldly at the two of them. Even though he had never seen them fight, he could guess that they were at the elementary celestial stage. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so confident. If we wanted to make a move, you would already be dead, Di Beichen said calmly. Yang Tianzhao was slightly taken aback. He then lowered his head and fell into silence. After a short while, Lu Jin said, If you're unwilling, then let's split up. Yang Tianzhao suddenly raised his head and looked at Lu Jin in disbelief. Are you really determined? They saved my life. Lu Jin nodded. I will definitely fulfill my promise. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and looked at Di Beichen. Let's go. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others turned around and left together. Thinking about it, there shouldn't be any problems if the three of them set off together. Tianzhao. Jiang Zhen frowned. Without Lu Jin, it was impossible for the two of them to cross the heavenly moat. Wait, just as the two of them were about to leave, Yang Tianzhao's voice rang out. Lu Jin turned around and heard him say, Let's go together. The stiff atmosphere in the room eased up with these words. Jiang Zhen and the others all smiled. That's more like it. We're all in this together. Chapter 71-59. Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations inside the heavenly moat. All of you coming quickly. Don't just stand outside. Jiang Zhen quickly beckoned everyone into the house. We have to set off in 2 days. We have to discuss this properly so that we don't miss out on anything. Lu Jin and the other two returned to the house. Although Yang Tianzhao looked a little unnatural, he was no longer as hostile as before. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were also very calm. They did not take this matter to heart. They did not care whether Yang Tianzhao accepted them or not. Their goal was to enter the crossing celestial domain. Other than that, they had nothing to do with anything else. What do we need to prepare before we enter the heavenly moat? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. There are many dangers in the heavenly moat. Anything can happen. Lu Jin's expression was very solemn. We know of a path that is slightly less dangerous, but even so, it is not easy to pass through. If we are not careful, we will lose our lives. Even experts in the elementary celestial realm are no exception. Lu Jin looked at Di Beichen and Jiang Zhen. Obviously, he was reminding them not to take it lightly just because they had a high cultivation level. This natural chasm is extremely deep. With our cultivation, it's impossible for us to fly over it. Even if we can fly over it, there will be many ferocious flying beasts along the way. The difficulty won't be much lower. Our route is to use a rope to enter the heavenly moat and walk to the crossing celestial domain. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. They had made the same judgment previously. This method seemed to take many detours. However, other than that, there was no other way. The heavenly moat is very deep. Hence, it is completely dark below. There is no sunlight at all. It is dark and humid. The environment is terrible. At this point, helplessness appeared on the faces of Lu Jin and the other two. Although they went there once a year, the environment there, they did not want to think about it. How long do we need to reach the crossing celestial domain? About 1.5 months, Lu Jin said. The distance between here and the crossing immortal region is not far. With our usual speed, we can get there in 7 days. However, the underground environment is really terrible. Our speed is very slow. I see. Bailey Hongzhuang breathed a sigh of relief. The timing was better than she had expected. That kind of cold and damp environment was indeed not what everyone liked, but she was no stranger to such an environment. In such an environment, the power of darkness was at its densest, and they were very used to it. There's a lot of miasma and fog in there, so you can't see the route clearly. Once you inhale too much of the miasma, it's easy to hallucinate. In the past, many people have lost their lives because of this. You have to be careful. There will be many monsters along the way. Normally, no cultivators would pass through the heavenly moat, and the monsters inside would not be killed by anyone. Therefore, their strength had evolved to a terrifying level. We once encountered a demon in the elementary immortal realm and almost lost our lives there. Jiang Zhen seemed to recall that experience. There was still a hint of fear between his brows. Not only that, there will be other dangerous places. However, we have some experience. When the time comes, don't act on your own. Listen to our arrangements, and you should be able to get through it safely. In a chapter 7160. Translator, Henyi Translations Editor, Henyi Translations Manager, Crossing Immortal Domain. We won't act on our own. You don't have to worry. Di Beichun said when he noticed the worry in their eyes. They had experienced this many times before. If they acted rashly, they would disrupt everyone's pace. Hence, this was the last thing they wanted to see when they were moving together. Lu Jin and the other two were relieved when they saw how sensible the two of them were. It was no wonder that the two of them could reach such a cultivation level at such a young age. Compared to cultivators of the same age, they were indeed much more mature. Although we have a certain understanding of the natural chasm, we can't guarantee that there won't be any problems. Every once in a while, there will be some changes in the natural chasm, be it the migration of monsters or the changes in the environment. These are all things we can't control. If there's any danger, we can work together. Jiang Zhen looked at Di Beichun. In terms of cultivation level, he and Yang Tianzhao were only at the Radiant Sun realm. Although they were only one step away from the elementary immortal realm, they had not reached it. In the past, with Su Shan around, the four of them could almost get through the natural chasm. Now that Su Shan was gone, if Di Beichun and Yang Tianzhao did not help them, they would be slightly inferior. I understand, Di Beichun replied. Since it's a collaboration, we will naturally do our best. However, you know that our goal is to enter the crossing immortal domain. When we go, we will naturally do our best. But what will you do when we return? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly. As long as they could enter the crossing immortal domain successfully, they would definitely not return. You don't have to worry about this. We have basically cleared most of the obstacles along the way. We can't be sure about the animal-type monsters, but we have already dealt with the plant-type monsters. Hence, the difficulty of returning will be much lower than when we went in, Lu Jin said. That's good. Bailey Hongzhuang was relieved. After Lu Jin and Jiang Zhen explained the situation in the natural chasm, Bailey Hongzhuang and Yang Tianzhao had a better understanding of everything. The vague concepts in their minds gradually became clearer. All these years, we have only been doing business with the crossing immortal domain. No one has ever entered the crossing immortal domain, and no one from the crossing immortal domain has ever come out. You're taking a risk this time. All we can do is bring you there, but if you can't convince them, there's nothing we can do. Yang Tianzhao's face was calm, and his voice was still distant. Is the person doing business with you the manager of the crossing immortal domain? Di Beichen suddenly asked. Not bad. The crossing immortal domain has been sealed off since a few years ago. The person in charge there is at the elementary immortal realm. Although we don't know, I think they should be connected to the immortal domain. Otherwise, they wouldn't be willing to stay in the immortal domain. After a while, Lu Jin slowly voiced his guess. They're doing business with us in secret just to enrich their own pockets. However, in all these years, they have never allowed any cultivators from the immortal domain to come out, so it is still very difficult. All you need to do is bring us there and leave the rest to us. We'll cut all ties with you once we get there. Just pretend that you don't know us. All right, Yang Tianzhao said. Lu Jin and Jiang Zhen's expressions were slightly complicated. Their goal is to go in. We still have to do business in the future, Yang Tianzhao emphasized. End of chapter. Chapter 71-61. Let's go, the special rope. Young Master Yang is right. We are already very grateful that you are willing to take us there. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. There was no friendship between them and Yang Tianzhao in the first place, so it was not strange for him to have such an attitude. As for her, she could not be bothered to pay attention to him. All right then, Lu Jin said awkwardly. After they came out, Lu Jin said apologetically, Tianzhao has always been like this. Please forgive him. We didn't take it to heart. Lu Jin was relieved to see that Di Beichen and Wang Chong's expressions were normal, without the slightest hint of dissatisfaction. The two of you are really broad-minded. If it were any other person, they would have been angry long ago when faced with such a situation. Previously, he was really worried that Yang Tianzhao would be so rude that he would provoke Di Beichen and Di Beichen into a fight. He didn't have the confidence to protect Yang Tianzhao from the two of them. Even though he had never seen them fight before, he had a vague feeling that the strength of these two people was not simple. He had the confidence to defeat Su Shun, but he didn't have the confidence to defeat either of these two people. This was because their usual performance revealed an indescribable foundation. Brother Lu, you flatter us. We just don't want to complicate matters. Lu Jin nodded bitterly. He knew that it wouldn't be easy for the two of them to resolve their differences. In any case, they had only been together for a little more than a month. As long as they paid attention, there shouldn't be any problems. According to Lu Jin's instructions, Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Jin prepared enough things before the four of them set off together. Everyone in the town knew about this matter. When they found out that Di Beichen and Shifeng were actually involved in this matter, they were somewhat surprised. However, after thinking about Su Shen's family, they immediately understood. Young Master Di and the others must be quite strong. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been recognized. I've been waiting for so long, but I didn't get the chance to go. I didn't expect them to be able to go so soon after coming to town. Have a safe journey. We'll be waiting for your good news. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest left for the heavenly moat after everyone in the town said their goodbyes. During this process, Lu Jin and the other two also carefully observed their surroundings. After ensuring that there was no one nearby, they finally felt at ease and took out the rope. The natural moat is very deep. It will take us a long time to reach the bottom. During this process, we might encounter danger at any moment. So, you must not be careless, Lu Jin reminded them. Jiang Zhen added, there are monsters on the mountain walls. There are also quite a number of monsters. Some of the monsters live here. Even if it's just a few vines, we still have to be on guard against them. What about our rope? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly. The journey was so dangerous. If there was a problem with the rope, they would be doomed eternally. Our rope is specially made. It won't break. You can rest assured. Yang Tianzhao threw 2 ropes to Di Beichen and Shifeng. There's only one rope. If you lose it, it'll be gone. Bailey Hongzhuang sized up the rope in her hand. As soon as she held the rope in her hand, she could feel its different texture. Obviously, this rope was also a magic treasure. Don't worry. I won't tamper with it. Yang Tianzhao's annoying voice sounded again. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Yang Tianzhao indifferently. Her eyes revealed a trace of frosty indifference. Tianzhao, Lu Jin said sternly. End of chapter. Chapter 71-62. Looking at Lu Jin's serious face, Yang Tianzhao shifted his gaze away and stopped saying those annoying words. Fix the rope here. We have specially prepared this place for our journey to the crossing immortal domain. We just need to leave the rope here when we reach the bottom. We will still have to rely on this fellow when we return. Lu Jin raised the rope in his hand. This thing looks simple, but it will be of great help to us. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded and imitated Lu Jin. She tied one end of the rope to the iron hook under the huge rock and tried to pull it. Sure enough, it was very firm. Let's go down. You all have to be careful. Don't worry, we understand. After everyone was ready, they looked at each other and jumped down the rope together. The moment he jumped off the moat, the cold wind blew from below, emitting a coldness that made one's heart palpitate. Bailey Hongzhuang did not descend quickly because the fog was very thick and they could not see the situation below clearly. Lu Jin and the others were also moving at a slower speed. They were constantly on guard against any unexpected situations. Fortunately, after descending for a long time, they did not encounter any danger. They could be considered very lucky. Bailey Hongzhuang continued to descend in an orderly manner. As she descended further and further, the temperature gradually decreased as well. The cold wind carried a faint moist aura, and the surrounding environment gradually darkened. They couldn't observe their surroundings very well with their naked eyes, so they could only use their mental strength to confirm everything. Hiss, a soft sound suddenly rang out. Bailey Hongzhuang, who was focused on descending, only then did she notice that the vines beside her had spat out snake apricots and were suddenly biting toward her. Monster! Bailey Hongzhuang shouted coldly in her heart. A sharp blade had already appeared in her hand, and she quickly stabbed towards the huge snake. Vigorous essence energy seeped into the dagger and ruthlessly pierced into the large snake's head. Rip! The sound of flesh being torn apart could be heard. The snake let out a miserable shriek before finally dying. Bailey Hongzhuang grabbed the snake's body and skillfully removed its gallbladder before throwing it away. Master, what do you need this snake gall for? Xiaohei stuck out half of its head. Just looking at that black thing gave it goosebumps. This snake is not weak. The snake's gallbladder can be used as medicine. She usually needed these things to make some medicinal powders. Hongzhuang, are you all right? Di Beichen's concerned voice sounded. He was not far away and heard the commotion. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head slightly. It's fine. Let's continue. The monsters here aren't very strong. It won't be difficult to deal with them. In the blink of an eye, half a day had passed. Bailey Hongzhuang looked down at the bottomless abyss with a hint of amazement in her eyes. The depth of this abyss was much deeper than what they had encountered before. Compared to this place, perhaps the abyss they had encountered before could not even be called an abyss. We'll have to spend more than a day just going down, and this is under the condition that we don't encounter any danger. Lu Jin heard the conversation between Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiaohei and explained. No wonder it's called a natural moat. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly and continued to fly down the rope. Suddenly, a cry of surprise rang out. Chapter 71-63. Everyone turned their heads to look at the source of the sound. When they realized that it was Jiang Zhen who had screamed, they looked around him. Everyone's expression changed instantly. It was a huge snake. At a glance, they could tell that it was several hundred feet long. If the snake Bailey Hongzhuang had encountered was a huge snake, then the one in front of them was a huge snake. At this moment, the huge snake was staring at Jiang Zhen with its black, oval eyes, as if it was looking at a delicious meal. Master, why do I feel that this snake is somewhat familiar? The corner of Xiaohei's mouth twitched slightly. Wasn't this guy an enlarged version of the snake they had seen before? This guy won't be easy to deal with. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes darkened. That snake could be dealt with one hand. This snake in front of them had probably reached the elementary celestial stage. Jiang Zhen's face turned pale. Facing the pair of cold and inhuman eyes, he subconsciously held his breath. In his heart, he wanted nothing more than a curse out loud. What kind of luck is this? How could we encounter such a troublesome guy? The huge snake stared at Jiang Zhen for a moment before it slithered over. Save me. As Jiang Zhen retreated, his body descended rapidly as he called for help. The huge snake was not in a hurry when it saw Jiang Zhen running away. Its long body suddenly plunged downward at an astonishing speed. Lu Jin's expression changed abruptly. He looked at Di Beichen and Xiao He gravely and said, Jiang Zhen is in danger. I need your help. Di Beichen and Xiao He naturally understood that since they were working together, they would do their best to protect each other's safety. Almost at the same time, everyone sped up and rushed down. We've met this snake once before. At that time, it was fighting with another demonic beast. We only saw it from afar and then quickly escaped. We weren't discovered by it. I didn't expect that our luck would be so bad this time. Do you know how strong this guy is? Di Beichen asked. According to my judgment, it's an elementary immortal. However, its combat prowess is above mine. I'm no match for it. Lu Jin admitted frankly, not only is it stronger than me, but it's also like a fish in water here. Bailey Hongzhuang also understood that they needed to rely on the rope as support, and the giant snake seemed to know the environment like the back of its hand. It didn't need any support at all. Its flexible body allowed it to move as if it was walking on flat ground. The three of us can still give it a try. Her ink-black phoenix eyes rippled with a bright luster, and there was not the slightest ripple on her bright and moving face. The three of them increased their speed. The wind whistled past their ears, and they could vaguely hear cries for help coming from below. Bailey Hongzhuang pushed her speed to the limit and finally saw the snake tail that was as thick as a 100-year-old tree. Swish, swish, the flying dagger shot out at lightning speed, directly piercing into the giant snake's flesh and disappearing. In an instant, she noticed that the giant snake had stopped. It no longer chased after Jiang Zhen, but slowly turned its head, its cold eyes staring at Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two. Stupid guy. A hoarse and harsh voice came from the giant snake's mouth. It stared coldly at Bailey Hongzhuang, as if it had already identified the person who attacked just now. Chapter 71-64. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. The demon in front of her was indeed not simple. I wanted to eat that guy first, but since you can't wait to deliver yourself to me, I'll fulfill your wish. The giant snake's icy gaze landed on Bailey Hongzhuang. It waved its tail, and a flying dagger flew out. Bailey Hongzhuang quickly dodged, but behind her, several flying daggers were deeply embedded in the mountain wall. This was the flying knife that she had shot into the snake's tail. Voila! The giant snake suddenly moved and attacked at high speed. He opened his bloody mouth and revealed his sharp fangs. At the same time, a fishy smell assaulted his senses. Bang! Bailey Hongzhuang dodged to the side, but the mountain behind her was directly smashed into a huge hole. Raising her right hand slightly, the long sword was already in her hand. With a leap, she jumped directly onto the head of the giant snake. At this time, Di Beichen and Lu Jin also moved at the same time, and a terrifying power attacked. Hit where it hurts. The giant snake coldly snorted and swept its tail. Three terrifying forces collided in midair, creating a shocking explosion. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes darkened. This snake's strength really couldn't be underestimated. It was able to deal with Beichen and Lu Jin's combined attacks. It was definitely stronger than the three of them. The three of them had ropes tied to their backs as they spun in the air. Their attacks were unceasingly launched, but the giant snake only used its head and tail to attack. The other parts of its body were fiercely protecting its vital points. They simply could not get close to it. This won't do. Di Beichen furrowed his brows. If they couldn't attack its vital points, they wouldn't be able to cause much damage to it. Once their essence energy was depleted, they would be at a disadvantage. Lu Jin, I'll attack the head, you attack the tail. Hongzhuang, look for an opportunity to attack his vitals. All right. Di Beichen stomped his foot on the mountain wall, and his body shot out explosively. His long sword was mixed with a terrifying sword aura. The giant snake, who originally didn't take Di Baichen seriously, felt the sharp sword aura. Its contemptuous gaze finally changed, and for the first time, it started to dodge. At the same time, Lu Jin also attacked its tail. The snake's tail was no doubt the most agile. It was very difficult for him to control it, but he was best at strength. Immediately after, everyone noticed a very frightening scene. Lu Jin's hands directly embedded into the giant snake's tail and used a terrifying strength to pull the giant snake backwards. The strength of demonic beasts was much stronger than that of humans. Normally, no one would compete with demonic beasts in strength. However, this time they saw someone directly in a tug of war with a demonic beast. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but raise her eyebrows. Lu Jin was really too honest. Attacking from the head and tail, the giant snake's coiled body unconsciously scattered a little. However, it still tightly covered its vitals. Bailey Hongzhuang swiftly flew over, and her long sword emitted a terrifying sword aura as it ruthlessly pierced into the giant snake's body. The long sword was only able to pierce halfway and was unable to continue. The giant snake's body was simply too huge, and the long sword was unable to pierce through. However, she didn't stop there. The terrifying sword aura continued to spread, forming a terrifying sword aura which continued to extend downwards. The intense pain stimulated the giant snake, and a mournful cry rang out. It immediately ignored Di Baichen and opened its bloody mouth to attack Bailey Hongzhuang. Chapter 71-65. The sudden madness of the giant snake did not exceed everyone's expectations, but its astonishing speed made everyone turn pale with fright. Bailey Hongzhuang was trying her best to pierce through the giant snake's body and attack its weak point, but she didn't expect this guy to be so fast, rushing in front of her in the blink of an eye. Opening its bloody mouth, Bailey Hongzhuang quickly dodged, brushing past those terrifying fangs. However, at this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly felt the weight on her back loosen, and she fell rapidly. The giant snake's mouth had directly bitten off the rope on her back. Without a point of support in midair, she naturally fell rapidly. Hongzhuang. Di Baichen narrowed his eyes and quickly chased after him. Bailey Hongzhuang tried her best to control her body. In this situation where the wind was howling, she had no leverage. Even if she wanted to get close to the side of the mountain, it was very difficult. Suddenly, a rope was tied around her waist, and she fell into a warm and familiar embrace. "Are you all right?" A voice as warm as the ocean rang in her ears. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled as she looked at the man beside her, whose face was filled with anxiety. She raised her head and planted a kiss on his lips. Her voice was light as she said, "I'm fine." Di Baichen was slightly startled, and his lips unconsciously curled into a doting smile. "You're still smiling. Aren't you afraid that you'll really fall?" "Not all." Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. "You're here anyway." Looking at the woman's sweet smile, Di Baichen faintly raised his eyebrows. That makes sense." In Di Baichen's arms, Bailey Hongzhuang once again leaped into the air. When the giant snake saw Bailey Hongzhuang, its eyes immediately turned red. It had not suffered such a serious injury in a long time. Fresh blood continuously flowed out of the giant snake's wound. It was obvious that the injury was not light. Lu Jin heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was safe and sound. Even though they were at the elementary celestial stage, if they fell from here, their lives would be in danger. Yang Tianzhao looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a complicated expression, but he didn't say anything. Jiang Zhen climbed up after the danger was gone. Only then did he feel relieved. "Mrs. D, it's great that you're all right. If something happened to Bailey Hongzhuang because of this, then he would be guilty." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "Don't worry. You are really arrogant." When the giant snake saw Bailey Hongzhuang's bright smile, it immediately felt that it was an eyesore, and its heart was filled with anger. "How does it feel to be injured?" Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows indifferently. "You're the one who started it. Now you're blaming us." The giant snake's gaze became even more sinister. You're courting death. In the next moment, the giant snake suddenly attacked. It had already regarded Bailey Hongzhuang as its mortal enemy. Most importantly, Bailey Hongzhuang noticed that this fellow's gaze was fixed on the rope behind Di Beichen. Obviously, it already knew what their biggest problem was. As long as this rope was gone, they would be in danger. This is bad. Lu Jin couldn't help but shout. Once the giant snake bit off all of their ropes, then their fate would be, this is bad. Jiang Zhen's face was pale. If the elementary celestial stage fell, then there was still a glimmer of hope. But if they fell, then there was no doubt that they would die. Who would have thought that this giant snake would notice this? This was their weakness. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression also became very ugly. It would not be easy to deal with this situation. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.